How are you? Excuse me. Welcome into the High Noon Report. I am Pugs Moran. We do this every Monday through Friday, noon till whenever, noon till when the headlines run out. We do hot topics, current events, trends, whatever it is that people are talking about, buzzing about. If it's happening in the world at large, I try and give it to you. It's a cheat sheet. Why? Well, because like I say every day, I live in fear. I live in fear for you good people. I live in fear that you're going to be accosted by that know-it-all jerk in your office who's trying to grandstand around the water cooler. You know that guy, hey, did you hear about? And then I worry that you're going to be like, no, I didn't hear about it. And then you're stuck talking to that guy forever. Nobody wants that. I certainly don't want that for you. And that's what this show does. It provides you a possibility of not having to get stuck. Because you can say to him, you can go, hey, did you hear about? You can go, yeah. And as a matter of fact, I did. Because that was one of the many subjects that Pugs Moran covered on his noon show. I forgot to do this. Hold on. We got a theme song for this show, and I forget. Because we only had it one day, ladies and gentlemen, from Rob Barr, my old friend, the High Noon theme song. Everybody, join hands. Get those.
Welcome to the High Noon with Pugs Moran.
Yeah, that's me.
Daily news from celebrities, maybe I ran.
Guys, tell you, I just love it. This was one of my favorite parts of, when we had a radio show with like a whole bunch of listeners and whatnot. My favorite thing was when they would send in stuff. And it'd be good. A lot, sometimes people send in stuff that's not good. But so many times people would send in stuff and they'd be like, oh my God, did you hear that song that guy sent in? That's hysterical. Let's play it. Rob, take me. Open my show, buddy.
Get your water cooler fix.
Yeah, that's what this
Get
is.
your water cooler fix.
Sure.
Show runs on your tips. Get your water cooler fix. Pugs and Company. Pugs and Company. Pugs and Company. Pugs and Company.
All right.
Pugs and Company.
Yeah. We got a theme song. It's like we're real. Thank you, Rob. That's the Pugs and Company High Noon Report theme. Oh, I didn't plug this computer in today. Hold on. We're getting started. Weekend with the kid, and kid's been here all week. It's let me tell you, folks, I love him, but being a parent is hard, man. That's even, because I get it, like who am I telling, right? You guys are like, oh, here we go. Part-time dad gonna tell us about how, look, just relate with me, okay? It's hard. I'll tell you the hardest thing is I get used to him being here. You know what I mean? Like that becomes like suddenly the norm. Because most of the time my son and I, he comes every other weekend and I see him during the off weeks and stuff like that. And we go to games or whatever it is that he's got going on. But that's kind of a rhythm. But then summer comes and it's like he's here all the time. Because it's, that time that I get him, and his mom and stepdad are out there traveling and having fun and a much deserved vacation for them. But now it's like I'm used to him being here, and I'm starting to get sad because he's going to go home for a couple of days. Soon. He's going to go home for a couple of days because he's got things he's got to take care of. Most notably, like, VR. He left his VR at home. So he's like, hey, play VR. So bring it over. We can go get it. I only live 20 minutes away. It's not like it's... Anyway, forgot what I was trying to say. I've got a lot weighing on my mind because I like having him around, and it's cool. It's cool. Anyway, welcome. Sorry, I'm in a bit of a morose mood. I've been, I try to talk about my my battles, a lot. It's been a rough couple of weeks, if I'm being honest with you. And again, my battles, my little depression things, they don't have anything to do with situations. They don't. Never have. They can be triggered, and I can get situational depression because my team lost. That's different. That's totally different. So doing this show has really been my saving grace. This one and the nighttime one. Not my saving grace. I'm not being over dramatic. What I mean is it's the thing I look forward to. And you have to have things that you look forward to. If you don't have things you look forward to, then you just, man, It's like, what's the point of living, right? So thank you to everybody who allows me to do this show each and every day. I love you so much. Also, the Radio Misfits show. We do that every Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. 9 p.m. This show is, I like to call this one utilitarian. James mocks me for it, but I think it's a utility. This is something you need to know. This is infotainment. I'm just going to give you a whole bunch of topics, stuff people are talking about, headlines. I'm going to give you a little bit of information on it, and then you can go out into the world not feeling like you're in the dark. That's what this show is. The Radio Misfits show, which airs at 9 p.m. Monday through Thursday, right here on the Radio Misfits podcast and streaming platform. Radio Misfits show, that's more conversational. That's myself and James Parker, and we've got E. E sits in with us, and that's more just a bunch of guys chopping it up. That's sillier. That's more fun. You can catch all of past episodes of these shows, whether it's the daily High Noon Report that you want to catch, you can get that, or the Radio Misfits shows. What did we do last night on Radio Misfits? We had some fun last night, I think. It was just me and James last night. But sometimes when it's just me and James, we get, I like that. Anyway, you can find those at pugscast.com. That'll take you right to the YouTube page that has all the shows. Just click the live shows, but it'll say like videos, live. You're going to click live because those are all live shows. And then you'll see them. They all come up. Let's see. Something else that I need to mention. Oh, yeah. I wanted to do this before we get started. One of our peeps, and I do consider us peeps, those of us who gather together each and every day here in the chat room, we are sort of like a weird family that doesn't really know each other. Some of you I've come to know through engagements on other social media platforms and that kind of thing. And yeah, he's gone. What's going on? Was there a problem with Pugscast? I didn't know that. Ed fixed my issue that I always have with, somehow you go to the page and there's nothing there. Thank you, Ed. Ed knows how to do that. Ed knows how to do everything. Pugscast.com for all previous shows of this and the Radio Misfits show. Jeff Ballard, I don't see him in the chat room today. That's there he is. There he is. Jeff's here now. I wanted to throw a very special shout out to Jeff. Jeff is getting married. How exciting is that? He and his lovely, I don't know what their deal is. I just know Jeff. I know that he's got, there's little kids running around, adorable little kids that he seems very fond of. He seems to have a very nice life out there in the Iowa cornfields, and he's going to make her an honest woman. Congratulations, Jeff. I love you, buddy. Thank you so much for all your help, all your support, everything you do with the show, showing up every day, mixing it up in the chat room, being relatively decent. I'll give you that. Being relatively decent. But congratulations to you, Jeff, and everyone in the chat room. Take a moment today to throw out some kind thoughts for Jeff and his lovely bride who are getting married on Saturday. Okay, let's move forward. Let's get into the show, if you will. Again, I'd like to mention tips. It's the last day. This is the last day we're going to be able to do it. We are, the show runs entirely on your gratuity, so thank you to, you can see, I don't have it scrolling. I put the new scroll on the bottom to thank the people, like they do on PBS when they do their pledge drives. I figured that was something that maybe we could start doing. I don't want to put anybody's last name. I don't want to put anybody's amount. I don't want to make anybody feel like, this person tipped that and that, this person, that's not what this is about. This whole show is just about you guys, whenever you can, whatever you can, we do appreciate it. So tip whatever you can. We were so close this month. It's and this month was the beginning of the month, fell over a 4th of July weekend. Typically you guys get us through the finish line at the beginning of the month. At some point I'd like to be in a position where we can be a month ahead and not have to, be so desperate, but that's not the case right now. So if you can, Venmo, Cash App, that would be great. Drop a little something. Treat me like I'm your bartender. You're here, you're hanging out with me. So throw whatever you would tip your bartender. Some of you are good tippers. You're all tippers. Tippers are wonderful. The fact that you were even thinking in that is great. So thank you to who are the people who did yesterday? Who are the new people? Charles N and Peter L. They tipped yesterday. So thank you so much. Appreciate that. Jeff too. We should thank Jeff. Appreciate you, Jeff. Jeff's getting married. He's dropping it. He's thinking of me. He's getting like he doesn't have a million things on his mind. So thank you, folks. We do appreciate it. All right, let's get into it. It is the high noon report for the seventh day here of July, year of our Lord 2023. Did you know it's the 188th day of the year? There are 177 days remaining until the end of the year. Let's see here. What else do we have? I just read it. I remembered on my own. Hey, buddy, Jeff, just so you know, I remembered on my own, but I just got to the point in the little rundown here where it says, you better mention Jeff's wedding. So I did. Look at me. I fought to do it. I didn't even need to remind you. That's good. On this day, we like to do the show in a couple of different ways, a couple of different segments, I should say. The first segment, we go through the events of the day, the histories, the things that have occurred that have, made. Oh, hold on, guys. Okay, pause, time out. So as James and I discovered a couple of days ago, Restream is doing a whole bunch of stuff. Restream is the platform that we use. So they're doing a whole bunch of stuff. They're changing their layout, which is problematic for me because I'm an idiot and I like to just click in the same direction that I always do every day. And if you move that button somewhere else, I got to look for it and I panic and I call Ed and he yells at me and we don't speak for 2 days and then we forget about it and we're okay, but whatever, there's still that thing between us. So Restream is doing some work. So every time that I try to share something, and I know it's fine. I know it's Ed, don't get mad. I'm just kind of going through my process here. I know that folks in the chat room and stuff don't see it. But every time on my end, every time I try to share something, I get a bubble that pops up that tells me I'm offline. So that's why there's been some hiccups lately. It's apparently just a glitch, and it doesn't really mean anything because y'all don't seem to be affected by it. So we're good in that area, but for me, it's still a little distracting. So I do apologize. All right, we do the show in 3 segments. We go back in time. We look at the events of this day throughout history. We cover the big events, the stuff that happened. We're looking for rhythms and patterns and things that might, give us a heads up as to what it is that we might experience in the next couple of hours of this particular edition of July the 7th. Then we go into the birthdays. We talk about people who were born, some memories, whatever it is. Then we mourn the passings, or do we? Because that's the big question. We talk about people who've died on this day, and we decide, do we care? Why? Because people die every day. Everybody dies. We all die. It's coming for us. And there are buttholes all over the place. We know this. So we take a look at the people who have died on this day, and we decide, should we? I was thinking about changing that, like heaven or hell, like just calling it heaven or hell, and deciding if they're going to heaven or hell. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe at some point we'll get to that. I don't know. I'm changing some things. We got a theme. I'm trying to make this far more, interesting, I guess. All right. So those are and then after that, after we do those opening 3 segments, then we move into the topics of the day. That's where we talk about all the things that are trending, the headlines, the breaking news, whatever it is. Okay, so with your permission, let's get started. Let's move into the erstwhile on this day segment. Erstwhile on this day, or previously on July the 7th. In 1863, the United States begins its first military draft. A note here on the first military draft in 1863. Exemptions cost $300. So what was $300? You know what? That's a good question. What was $300 worth in 1863? That's what we need to know. What was the value of $300 in 1863? All right, so we're looking at $7,000, $7,200. So when the first military draft came, you had to go get fed into the meat grinder because that's your duty of an American, unless you got a rich daddy who could pay $300 to get you out of fighting for your country. That would be the equivalent of $7,000 today. Oh my God, that's not much, right? I mean, by today, like, could you imagine? I mean, just about everybody would probably, not everybody, but the middle class, sure as shit, could probably, take a second home loan or something to keep 18-year-old Johnny from going over to fight in the Ukraine or wherever the hell it is they're going to send him. Boy, oh boy. Well, there you go. Goes to show you could always buy your way out. If you got money in this country, 1865 on this day, 4 conspirators in the assassination of Abraham Lincoln are hanged. We've talked about this. I am fascinated. it's really not as well covered. I think. I think this is one of those pieces of fascinating American history that should be on the top shelf of things we learn, but we don't. And that is the conspiracy surrounding the assassination of President Lincoln. Most people, hey, tell me about Lincoln's assassination. Well, he went to a movie and he got shot, and the guy's name was John Wilkes Booth. And maybe some of the more advanced might even say it was at the Ford Theater, but that's all we know. I mean, that's all most people know. That was a night of mayhem. It wasn't just happening at the Ford Theater. They tried to assassinate the vice president at the same time. One guy was supposed to kill a Supreme Court justice or Speaker of the House or something like that, but he gave up. He got drunk in a bar instead and went, "What am I doing?" and gave up. Yeah, man, they hung a whole bunch of people. That was a big night. That was a whole overthrow attempt of the United States government. Lincoln is the only one who died, unfortunately, or fortunately. I don't know how to phrase that exactly. That was on this day in 1865 that 4 conspirators in the assassination of Abraham Lincoln are hanged. On this day in 1898, United States President William McKinley signs the New Lands Resolution, which is annexing Hawaii as a territory of these here United States. Let's see here. Oh, hey, today is the day that we have been hearing about. Look at this, all right? This day in history. This is the day that we've been hearing about. Every time something good happens, what do people say? Oh, that's the greatest thing since sliced bread was first offered to the public on this day in 1928. Sliced bread is sold for the very first time. The Chillicothe Baking Company of Chillicothe, Missouri, is who offered the American public, the great unwashed, sliced bread for the very first time. Why this is the greatest day since sliced bread. On this day in 1930, industrialist Henry J. Kaiser begins construction of the Boulder Dam, now known as the Hoover Dam. On this day in 1946, Howard Hughes nearly dies when his XF-11 reconnaissance aircraft prototype crashes in a Beverly Hills neighborhood. You guys know about this story? Here, let me show you these pictures, man. These pictures are insane. Howard Hughes was just out flying around in some plane. He was John Denvering it up, built a plane in his garage. Okay, it's a little more than that. Howard Hughes was an aviation guy. He owned an aviation Hughes aircraft. So it wasn't like just John Denver. But you know what I'm saying? He's like, hey, this should work. And so he had his guys make it. Howard Hughes, by the way, at the time was, I believe, the wealthiest man on the planet. Movie producer, oil baron, aircraft guy, The Aviator. The movie The Aviator is about him. But he had this experimental aircraft. And hold on, let me show you some of these pictures. There you go. All right. So he took this experimental plane up. Get some of these pictures. And he just started flying it around LA. And guess what? It didn't work. It didn't work. And he crashed it. He didn't just crash into old nothing neighborhood. He crashed. Here, let me get back to the chat. Make sure, guys, chatters, I'm sharing something. So make sure you tell me if you can see it or not. Because I don't know. Restream is telling me that I'm off the stream. This is, it says here, it says, whoops. This is a picture of the plane. Howard Hughes crashed it into a house in Beverly Hills, like a really nice part of, Beverly Hills, nice part of Beverly Hills. What's the bad part of Beverly Hills, right? Jesus Christ. He survived. There he is. He got all busted up and stuff. The Aviator, right? Didn't they show this in The Aviator? There's his cockpit. Jeez. There's the house. A beautiful house. Howard Hughes just coming in hot. I don't know how many people died. Did people die? Let's figure this out. Let's see if anybody died. No. Okay. Never mind. We're not going to waste that much time on it. I'm sure people died. He nearly died. I'm sure other people died. Probably. I don't know. It looks like they did. Maybe not. Who knows? History. Look into it. 1958 on this day, United States President Dwight David Eisenhower signs the Alaska Statehood Act. Welcome to the party, Alaska. All right. There you go. Alaska. Here's what we need from you, Alaska. You need to just sit there and be pretty, because that's what you are, Alaska. You're pretty. You're like our pretty state. Just sit there Be pretty. Because when you open your mouth, you sound like Sarah Palin. And lower 48, we're kind of like, okay, no, just look pretty, Alaska. That's all. On this day, Alaska was welcomed in to the rest of us. On this day in 1958. On this day in 1981, United States President Ronald Reagan nominates Sandra Day O'Connor to become the first female member of the United States Supreme Court. Sandra Day O'Connor, here's what I remember about Sandra Day O'Connor. Sandra Day O'Connor had a haircut. She had a crazy haircut. She had founding father hair. That's all I'm going to say. She had a haircut that looked like Jefferson could rock it. And, this was 1981. So do your own investigation. Pull up a picture of her. You'll see what I mean. She had money hair. She had hair that looks like it should be on money. How's that? That was on this day in 1981. On this day in 2005, a series of 4 explosions occur on London's transport system, killing 56 people, including 4 suicide bombers. Okay, let's take a moment on this because this is a massive day in London right now. This is a big day. This is 7/7. They consider this to be their 9/11. This was the backpack bombers in the subways. 2005 on this day. How many died? We got, let's see here. Series of 4 explosions. 56 people were killed. That includes the 4 suicide bombers who are identified. It injured 700 other people, man. I love mass transit. Love it. Love the subway. Love the L in Chicago. I don't love buses, but I love trains. This myth that you hear, especially for people who have never rode trains regularly, it's like they think it's something that it's not because of the way movies have always portrayed train. Man, those trains are filled with dudes in suits with $800 leather attaché cases every day of the week. That's the bulk of the people you're dealing with. Yes, if you are riding a subway on a line that runs through some spooky ass neighborhoods in any American city after midnight, you might encounter some problems. But if you're trying to get to work, or if you're trying to get out to the airport at noon on a Saturday, I'm telling you, man, mass transit is awesome. But I wouldn't be lying to you if I told you that you're sitting ducks. If for these kinds of, like what happened in England on this day on 7/7/2005, you are sitting ducks. That's why these things are so vulnerable. We've had these subway and these mass transit incidents before. Of course, there was the sarin gas attack in Japan, that crazy cult that killed all those people. That was unbelievable. But that didn't really happen in the West and the Japanese, so we don't really think about that. But that was a wild one. Look into that story. Also, when Mumbai, remember when Mumbai was attacked about 10 years ago, 15 years ago by like a platoon of terrorists who tried to take over the entire city. First thing they did was pin down all the railways and all that stuff and held all those people hostage. Crazy. Anyway, man. It ain't like a Hollywood movie where, some black guy, with a bandana and twirling a switchblade is going to come up. I mean, I don't know. I rode the train in Chicago for 20 years. I never saw that. I saw a lot of different people. I saw some weird things. I saw some homeless activity and I saw some great musical acts in the subway hall, but I never saw what Hollywood tries to make people who live in like Nebraska think riding a New York subway or a Chicago L or whatever. So, good thoughts for the people of England. It's a bad day for them. That's one of those days of memoriam. And so good thought for them. On this day in 2016, ex-U.S. Army soldier Micah Johnson shoots 14 policemen during an anti-police protest in downtown Dallas, killing 5 of them. He's subsequently killed by a robot-delivered bomb. Ooh, okay, we're going to spend some time talking about this. The memories of this are like in my eye. I remember I was in Chicago at the time. And man, I was glued to my TV and I'm texting all my friends and I'm on the Facebook and we're watching this thing unfold. This was before I ever thought of doing the breaking live thing, but I would have been good on this one because I knew I lived in that neighborhood. The El Centro garage where he was hiding was half a block or block from where I lived. That's where I walked my dog. Hell, that whole area was my area. So if you remember what happened, this was Black Lives Matter protest. I don't know specifically whether there was an incident surrounding this. I could click on the page, but I'd rather just try and do a drunk history version of this. He was sniping, right? He was in the parking garage at El Centro College, and he was sniping at cops below. And it went on forever. I mean, it was really freaky. It was like, what is going on here? This is a standoff on live TV in prime time. I mean, at least he waited for prime time. The news network certainly got the juice out of that one. This is crazy. And then I remember David Brown. Was David Brown David Brown, who's now the chief of the Chicago Police Department? I believe David Brown was the chief then. I'm not entirely sure on that, but I think it was David Brown. He's the dude who sent in the robot with all the bombs. And people were like, you just can't do that. You can't just kill indiscriminately like with a robot. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's the preferred method. If we've got a psychopath with a gun shooting cops, why would we send a human being in to deal with this psychopath when the option of sending something whose soul couldn't be lost, when that's an option and we could take them out easier? They just packed this thing with, I believe it was almost like it wasn't designed for that. Like it wasn't designed to carry a bomb. So they had to like do this makeshift thing, and they rolled. He was hiding in the parking garage in a corner. They had him pinned down and he wouldn't come out, and he had untold amounts of ammunition. So they went, all right, you won't come out. We're going to strap some dynamite on top of a Roomba, and we're going to send that bitch in there and bye, dickhead. And that's exactly what happened. And there was all kinds of pearl clutching about this decision made by the Dallas Police Department. And, the only question I had was, why didn't they do it an hour earlier? I mean, why wasn't this the first thing they thought of? Send a drone up there and laser his ass. You can't. Look, you can support the concept of police reform and support the concept that if someone goes in a parking garage and starts indiscriminately shooting people with a rifle, they need to be taken out, as Malcolm X would say, in any means necessary, with any means necessary. You can hold both of those opinions. That guy needed to go. And congratulations. I think they came up with a very entertaining way of doing it. Do you remember before, like it was leaked, what the plan was, how they were going to send this robot? And I remember people on the news talking about it like, they could use a robot. People would get leaks and then they'd flip it out on the air like it's their own thought. And I'm like, they wouldn't do that. Could they do that? That'd be awesome. They should do that. And then they did it. So congratulations. And best thoughts to the family of all the police officers who were injured and killed. That was a dark day here in the history of Dallas. I dare say it's probably the most eventful. Okay, so my Dallas friends. This is my city. I love this city. It's my city. It's my son's city. I've spent not more than half my life, but almost more than half my life. I'll probably end up spending the rest of my life here. Was there a bigger news event in the history of Dallas that didn't involve the assassination of a president? I mean, obviously, JFK is the number one news event in Dallas history. But was there anything bigger than this day when the entire world was watching downtown Dallas as a sniper held up in the El Centro parking garage and just started taking pot shots at people? Yeah, Frank Smith points out David Brown retired from Chicago. Retired's a nice way of saying it. He did not work out in Chicago. He didn't work out in Chicago any better than he worked out in Dallas. But yeah, Frank says David Brown is now back in Dallas working for, as Frank agendizes, ambulance chaser lawyers. They very well may be. But Frank, you are letting me know more about you by choosing those words than maybe you know. All right, there you have it. And on this day, 2022, Boris Johnson announced his retirement as leader of the Conservative Party. Look at that. Here we go. Again, I noticed yesterday how exciting this was. For me anyway. We've been doing the show long enough now where things that we reported as breaking news are coming back at us as moments in history. This show is becoming an institution. We still need to raise about $70 more. So tip the show if you can. We need Venmo. Venmo is where we need it. If you can help us out, drop a little something in the Venmo, the Cash App, anything. Help the show stay alive. Let's move into some birthdays. Let's celebrate some people who are buana. People having birthdays. Buana. Here we go. These are people who have celebrated the beginning of their lives. A storied life? We'll find out. Born on this day in 1906, Satchel Paige. Satchel Paige. Who's Satchel Paige? Well, he's an athlete history has forgotten. He is debatably, well, depends on. I don't know that there's anybody around who saw Satchel. Well, they might have, because didn't Satchel Paige play like well into his 60s, they say? My point is this. Some people will tell you Satchel Paige is the greatest baseball player who ever played the game. But he played most of his career in the Negro Leagues. Did he make it to the pros, or did he make it to the majors? Was he ever? Because let's see here. Hold on. I think he did. Didn't he play for Cleveland? I think he did. I think he came into the league. Leroy Robert Satchel Paige was an American professional baseball pitcher who played in the Negro League Baseball and Major League Baseball. Yeah, would have had to, because his career spanned 5 decades. A right-handed pitcher, Paige first played for the semi-professional Mobile Tigers. All right, and when did he play? At age 42 in 1948, Paige made his debut for the Cleveland Indians. To this day, this makes him the oldest debut in the National or American League history. Additionally, Paige was 59 years old when he played his last major league game. 59 years old when he made his last game. Man, was he still effective? I mean, I don't know, but some people say Satchel Paige, greatest baseball player there ever was. Born on this day in 1925. Here's a little something to my Chicago friends, all my pals in Chicago. Happy birthday to the legendary Wally Phillips. Wally Phillips, American radio host, born on this day in 1925. Wally Phillips dominated the Chicago and Midwestern radio airwaves and morning drive for 30 years. I don't know, beginning in like 1960 all the way through to the late 80s. Wally Phillips was an institution in the city of Chicago for people like myself. And let me tell you something, nobody remembers him. Very sad. Nobody. There is no Wally. The guy, you could make a case that the guy deserves a freeway in that city. That's how influential he was at a time when radio was super influential. When there were only 3 TV news channels and, there was only one big talk station in town. And it was him. He was the guy that people listened to. Born on this day in 1925, Wally Phillips. Born on this day in 1927. How about Doc Severinsen? Doc Severinsen, leader of the NBC Orchestra, the Johnny Carson Band. I wonder if Doc was gay. Was Doc gay or just 70s flamboyant? Because it seemed like Doc Severinsen was trying to do the whole Liberace thing with crazy jackets and look at me. But it also seemed like Doc Severinsen liked chicks. So it was kind of a weird, like, dynamic. You know what I mean? It was a weird, and Johnny always made fun of Doc Severinsen's swinger lifestyle. That was part of it. Well, you know what Doc was getting into this weekend? Threesomes. Like he was always making allusions to Doc. I remember some conversation between Johnny and Doc about Doc's hot tub. And I was only 8 years old, 8 or 9, and I didn't really get it, but I knew something dirty was happening in that hot tub. Doc Severinsen, happy birthday. He got tripped up by, all the things of the time. He's like, man, do I need to be a showman like Liberace? But, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be what, how would you describe Liberace? Without offending anybody. He wears flamboyant clothes and then behaves not like a Golden Gloves boxer. How about that? There you go. And Doc Severinsen was more like a guy's guy, but wearing like, gold lame with frills and whatever. I like Doc. Doc seemed good. He just a little confused about what direction he was going in. On this day in 1940, here's a big old birthday. Anytime it concerns a Beatle. Happy birthday, Ringo Starr, English singer, songwriter, drummer, and actor. Fun Ringo Starr story. Joe Walsh told this on a radio show that I was a part of. He told Joe Walsh was touring with Ringo Starr's all-star band. And Joe Walsh was telling the story of how after all of these years, Ringo hadn't done anything musically for a bunch of years. And it was asked of Joe, hey, so how did this whole thing start? Why did you guys decide that you were going to form a band and go out on the road? And Joe Walsh said that he was in Ringo's house. Ringo was having a party. and Joe Walsh and Ringo Starr were shooting pool. And music was playing and people are swimming by the pool. Imagine a Hollywood party around about 1989. Not just a Hollywood party, a Beatle throwing a party. So, the people there are the guest list, let me tell you, probably big names. He's a Beatle for crying out loud. So they're shooting pool, Ringo Starr and Joe Walsh, and some music's coming on and they're grooving. And Joe Walsh says, hey, Ringo, how come you don't go out on tour, man? You've got a bunch of Beatles songs. You've had some solo hits. You're a damn Beatle. People would come. You should sell out big places. You should put a band together. And Ringo Starr turned to Joe Walsh and said, yeah, man, I don't know. It needs to be perfect. And I need to find people who can just play exactly what I want to hear. And at that moment, Ringo Starr stopped and he said, like this. And because there was music playing. They were at a party at Ringo's house. And the song was playing. The song was Ringo loved the song. And he goes, see, like this. He goes, if I could get that guitar player, then, maybe. The song he was listening to was Rocky Mountain Way, and he was talking to Joe Walsh, and he had no idea that was Joe's song. And Joe's like, well, Ringo, it just so happens that guitar player is standing right in front of you. And that's how the Ringo Starr All-Star Band, led and put together by Joe Walsh, came to be. Happy birthday, Ringo Starr, born on this day in 1940. Born on this day in 1949, Shelley Duvall, olive oil. She was olive oil. She was also, she was olive oil, and she was, who else was she? She was olive oil. The Shining. I'm trying to think of, what she was. Shining. She was in The Shining, right? That's pretty good. That was great. Creepy in The Shining, but still pretty good. Also, what else was she in? She did those fairy tale shows, right, for HBO. I don't know. Shelley Duvall seemed like she was in a Popeye. Oh, well, I said that, olive oil. She seemed like she was in a whole bunch of stuff when I was little. And then she just disappeared. And then she reappeared on YouTube. She's like some dude who does, my son loves YouTube. He finds the craziest stuff. That's the only channel he watched. Do you have kids like under 30? Like, all they seem to do, all my kid does is watch YouTube. He walks into the house, he puts on YouTube, and then anything that he wants to watch is right there. And I don't think that's a good thing. I really don't. I think that the fact that other generations like ourselves, Gen X, even millennials to a great extent, we were forced to be exposed to stuff that we wouldn't have chosen on our own. We were forced to be exposed to cultural and educational broccoli. YouTube, my kid walks in and sits down at YouTube and he just gets educational candy. It's just all candy. It's just all whatever he's interested in, whatever he wants. I suppose that's good, but man, I know all kinds of stuff about the Merv Griffin show. I wouldn't know that if I had a choice of watching 24-hour cartoons when I was 8 years old, but I didn't. I sat and watched Merv Griffin at 8. I don't know. Anyway, getting back to Shelley Duvall. My son found a video on YouTube of a guy who found Shelley Duvall. He was doing a special YouTube documentary on The Shining, and he tracked down Shelley Duvall. And Shelley Duvall lives on a ranch outside Fort Worth. And Shelley Duvall, okay, so the very first, because we haven't seen her in like 40 years, the very first thing you're going to go is you're going to be like, oh, okay, I can see that it is Shelley Duvall, but she don't look good. She's like 80 years old. She's like 80 years old, and she's gone total country, and she lives on a ranch outside Fort Worth. She doesn't care about, she never had plastic surgery. Shelley Duvall seems like a real woman, she just got out of Hollywood. She got her bag of cash, right? Like I always say, determine what your bag of cash is ahead of time. And when you get that bag of cash, live a happy life. She got her bag of cash. She didn't need a hockey bag of cash. She was happy with, the little backpack of cash, and she knew that she could live her life. We did that. And she gave this interview to this kid who was doing this Shining documentary, and she was so interesting. She seems a little, she seems like if she was your neighbor, she would either be super fun or the one that you're always calling the police on. Like, she's either going to be like the worst possible, or she's like the fun neighbor who you trust with your kids. She's a little eccentric. I don't know. But happy birthday, Shelley Duvall. I didn't really think much of you until I watched this video with my son. And now I think you're a cool lady. Just like a cool ass lady living on a ranch. She needs some dental work, but she doesn't really seem to care about it because she's 80 and lives on a ranch. And she's like, how many days do I got left? Do I want to spend one of them in a dental chair? That's the attitude of Shelley Duvall that I kind of like. She was cool. Shelley Duvall, happy birthday to you. Born on this day in 1949. Fun fact. Not related to Robert Duvall. For years, I thought Shelley Duvall was Robert Duvall's sister. Shelley Duvall is not related to Robert Duvall. Born on this day in 1966. How about Jim Gaffigan? Oh, my God. He's one of the biggins. He's one of the biggins. And when I say the biggins, I mean there's Kevin Hart, there's Sebastian Maniscalco, and then there's Jim Gaffigan. For the younger, maybe urban leaning, I would say 18 to Kevin Hart, right? He's like the urban guy that crosses over. Everybody likes him. Then you got Sebastian Maniscalco. Sebastian Maniscalco is kind of out there doing, the 30-year-old to 35-year-old kind of act for guys getting married, just having, little kids and all. Then you got Jim Gaffigan. Jim Gaffigan's out there dominating with the older folks, just dominating with people over 40. That's Jim Gaffigan's. Those I would say are the three biggest right now. Three biggest bankable touring stand-up comedians. And I'm not talking about the ones that are hot, okay? I'm not talking about, Theo Von's got or what. No, I'm talking about the ones that can, do residencies at Vegas. The ones, I'm talking about stand-up comedians whose name you know and your crazy Aunt Martha knows, right? So that would be Kevin Hart, Sebastian Maniscalco, and Jim Gaffigan. I have a very long relationship with Jim Gaffigan. Jim Gaffigan has been doing shows that I've done for years before the incident that I'm about to tell you about. I am at war with Jim Gaffigan. I've been in a cold war with Jim Gaffigan for about 15 years now, after he went up on stage at the Dallas Improv and basically just tore me apart. Oh, did he destroy me on stage? Oh, my God, he hates me. Why does he hate me? Well, I'll tell you why he hated me. So Jim Gaffigan had been a regular on our show. And Jim Gaffigan's act. His whole act is, I'm the nicest guy in the world, and I'm a dad. And, no, that dude is dark. That dude has a dark rage streak. He's a former football player at Purdue, man. You don't mess around with Jim Gaffigan. He ain't this shrieking little daffodil. Yeah, former football player at Purdue. Linebacker, okay? Gaffigan's got like a hitter's mentality. Gaffigan is not the guy on stage that the brand portrays, okay? It's made him a lot of money, and he's very good at it, and it's wonderful, and I love, to this day, even though I'm at war, because I have the ability to separate the art from the artist, I still enjoy his stand-up specials. I think he's an immensely talented guy. But here's what happened. So Jim had done our show a bunch of times. Jim had shown up. He was doing the improv, and he was going to come and hang out with us for the day on the show. He was in the green room. We wanted to introduce him because we like him. We wanted to give him his own segment. But unfortunately, the night before, Britney Spears made out with Madonna on the MTV Awards. Do you remember that? You remember when Britney Spears made out with Madonna on the MTV Awards? Remember, that was big news. Oh, my God. For the Pugs and Kelly show, it was our 9/11. It was massive for us. We broke it down. What does it mean? Are they lesbian? All that kind of stuff. So we were having a lot of fun with that particular topic. And when a team chemistry show, and we were a team, the old Pugs and Kelly show, I would say that the team was in some way, shape, or form, me, Kelly, Sybil, Eric, Paco, and James, some combination of that with Cody's and Lacey's and all those people like folded in over time. But we were a team, we were an ensemble. And for some reason, we were really hot on that topic. We were laughing, we were enjoying it, we were making fun of the topic, we were playing audio, all of that stuff. And the segment went a little bit long. And it went long because we were enjoying it, because the phones were lighting up. It seemed like people were having fun with us. We were having fun. So what we didn't know was, as we were extending this segment, Jim Gaffigan wanted to get on the air. Jim Gaffigan was angry that he was being kept in the green room while we riffed on this subject. And apparently he was stewing, and he was pacing back and forth. And at some point, Jim Gaffigan said, fuck this. And he walked out and he left. Now, we wrap up our Britney fun and we go, hey, all right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Jim Gaffigan. Hey, get Jim in here. He's been so patiently waiting in the green room. What? And then Sybil, our producer, comes through the intercom and she goes, yeah, Jim left. We're like, what? And I could tell by the look on her face that it wasn't good. So I remember we teased him, okay, apparently something major has just gone down. We'll be right back. And we take a break and we come back. And in the break, we learn that Jim Gaffigan was throwing a shit fit. Like he was like freaking out about this is unprofessional and blah, blah, blah. So we get back on the air and we lay into Jim Gaffigan. We're like, what a prima donna bitch, blah, blah, blah. Now, apparently, Jim was listening to this in the car all the way back to his hotel room. And when he got up on stage that night, he laid into us, and then it became a war. And then I believe there was a phone conversation that was not good. So Jim Gaffigan and me are still at war. I don't remember what he said about me, but I'm sure it was funny. Because there's a lot to choose. If you want to rip on me, you want to get on stage. If you are a trained comedian and you want to get up on stage and you're a good comedian like Jim Gaffigan, you want to get up on stage and you want to tear me apart, there's a lot to work with. So let me have it. Let me have it. I love good comedy. I can be a target. Happy birthday to my enemy, Jim Gaffigan. Born on this day in 1966. Born on this day in 1969, Cree Summer. You guys remember Cree Summer? I remember the name. And I remember I had a big crush on her. Oh my God, I was Cree crushing. Yeah, I was. Cree Summer, A Different World. Remember the spinoff from The Cosby Show when Lisa Bonet went off to college and she went to the fictional historically Black university. Was it Singer College or something like? Wait, Spelman's a real college, right? Or was it fictional? I don't know. Whatever it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, it was set at a historical. It was a college show. Lisa Bonet goes off to college. And one of the girls that lived in the dorm was, there was Whitley. Remember Whitley? That was Jasmine Guy. Whitley was the super wealthy 1%er girl who was just sort of like royalty, stuck up snob, all that stuff. I mean, how much money did Whitley come from? Because I know that Lisa Bonet's parents were a doctor and a lawyer. So, And then there was the hippie girl, and that was Cree Summer. Do you remember the hippie girl? She lived with him. She was so cute, man. Cree Summer. I don't know what happened to her. I'm afraid to look her up. Happy birthday, Cree Summer. All right, there you go. Those are Buana, Buana, Buana. Those are today's birthdays. Donna, Donna, Donna. How about we move on to the next segment? These are the people who've died. These are the people who've died. This is where we take a look at those who have passed on this day, and we decide, do we care? Not a whole lot to deal with today. That's good. That's good that there's, a lot of celebrities don't die on July the 7th. First of all, we're going to talk about Veronica Lake. Veronica Lake, actress from Hollywood's golden age, died on this day. Let's do this together because I have no idea. Hold on. Who does Veronica Lake look like? Let's see. See if we recognize her. I couldn't name a Veronica Lake movie. You know what I know about Veronica Lake? I know in the movie L.A. Confidential. Remember L.A. Confidential? Kim Basinger. I know that she was trying to look like Veronica Lake, like through surgery. But remember L.A. Confidential was about, let's save this. Oops, it's telling me something went wrong that I need to try reloading the page, but I'm going to ignore that. L.A. Confidential was about a brothel agency, like an L.A. brothel or escort agency in the 1940s, Hollywood, that would set up rich businessmen with prostitutes escorts who'd had plastic surgery to look like, celebrities. So a rich businessman in town from New York could have sex with a Veronica Lake lookalike. That was the Kim Basinger one. That's her. That's Veronica Lake. That's all I know about her, that she was name checked in LA Confidential. Yeah, man, she's hot. Veronica. Okay. All right. We care. There you go. I'm willing to go on record. Sure. I'd say timeless beauty. I wouldn't say exceptional beauty. I mean, I don't know. Well, let's put Veronica Lake up next to Heather Locklear from 1987, right? Let's see that. Let's put Veronica Lake up against Farrah Fawcett from 1977. We'll see. But anyway, we care. Veronica Lake, dead on this day in 1973. Dead on this day in 2006. Preemptive, we care. Sid Barrett. Sid Barrett died on this day in 2006. However, he may as well have passed away 30 years earlier. Sid Barrett was a tortured soul, a tortured genius. Sid Barrett is the founder and the leader of Pink Floyd, who suffered from schizophrenia. All, you know how weird Pink Floyd is? Well, that's kind of all from the mind or the inspiratu of one Sidney Barrett. Sid Barrett lost his mind. He was institutionalized. He could no longer continue in Pink Floyd in around 1970 or so. He exited the band, and that's when Roger Waters and David Gilmour took over as the lead guys. But for a big period of time, and for a lot of what Pink Floyd is most admired for, a lot of that falls on the shoulders and in the crazy brain scramblies of one Sidney Barrett, who died on this day. Sid Barrett, 2006. Dead on this day in 2001, Robert Downey Sr. That's right, Robert Downey Sr., American actor and director, father of Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Sr., he gets a mention here. You may not have ever heard of him before. Certainly, you know Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Sr. was a independent, underground, experimental filmmaker in the 1960s and 70s. Made a lot of hippy-dippy films, the counterculture loved and all that kind of stuff. Never really successful. I think the most successful film Robert Downey maybe ever did was around 1979, a film called Up the Academy. I don't know if you've ever seen Up the Academy, but it was sort of in the vein of The Animal House or The Revenge of the Nerds, that kind of thing. It was a private academy school, boarding school. And the boys were so bad. And Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Downey Jr. was in that. And Robert Downey Sr. directed it. Also, should be mentioned, an old friend of mine from Chicago radio days, that movie starred Harry Tynowitz. Harry Tynowitz, who would go on to be a great sports radio talk show host and stand-up comic in Chicago. Harry Tynowitz, ESPN for years. Harry Tynowitz worked at The Loop with me for years. Harry Tynowitz is just an incredible, incredible guy. Harry Tynowitz had the most legendary wedding of all time because he was a sports guy. And he had to pretend like he liked the Cubs and Sox the same. He doesn't. He's a Cub fan. But because he was a sports guy in Chicago, his wedding, he hired the beer vendors from Wrigley Field and Comiskey Park at the time. Maybe it wasn't at the time. But anyway, he hired the beer vendors from both Cubs and Sox games to work his wedding. So there wasn't a bar, just beer vendors walking around. That's pretty cool. Harry Tynowitz, Up the Academy. I mentioned him because he's going through a health battle. So keep a good thought for him. He's got some major issues, but he's been fighting them for a long time. And I watch his updates. One of the reasons I'm staying on Twitter, because Harry Tynowitz updates. So best of thoughts to the wonderful guy, Harry Tynowitz. Robert Downey Jr., Sr., who was Harry's director in Up the Academy, that film when Harry was a child actor. Robert Downey Sr. is who we need to consider here. Do we care that he's dead? Recently, Robert Downey Jr. released a documentary that he made about his father. Very complicated man, about his relationship with his father. He loves his father, as well he should, However, I'm taking a 30,000-foot look at this, and Robert Downey Sr. was a horseshit father. He got his son to use drugs at 10 years old. At 10 years old, Robert Downey Jr. was doing drugs with his father. All of those issues that Robert Downey Jr. had to overcome throughout the 90s when he was constantly being arrested and he was in and out of rehab and he spent time in jail and he was just a complete embarrassment. The dude made Chaplin. The guy was coming off Less Than Zero and Chaplin. He was being looked at as one of the greatest young actors of his generation, a new Brando, a new De Niro. That's what people were looking at Robert Downey Jr. as, coming up off of, again, Less Than Zero and Chaplin. Oscar nominated for Chapman. Attenborough directed him in Chaplin. I mean, he was on his way. And then how he was raised and all those demons of partying with his dad, doing blow at 11 years old, all of that kind of stuff, that ruined his life. And right after the whole Chaplin thing, man, that's when Robert Downey Jr. became a complete joke. Robert Downey Jr., thankfully, because we all love him dearly now, resurrected his ass like no one in history has. Greatest comeback in the history. Robert Downey Jr. was a joke. Are some of you too young to remember? Robert Downey Jr. was Andy Dick. Robert Downey Jr. was, do you remember Charlie Sheen in his Tiger Blood stage when he was like, that's what Robert Downey Jr. was. And now he is as big an A-list star as Hollywood has ever produced. And he did that in spite of the fact that his dad, who died on this day in 2021, is a real piece of garbage. So no, we don't care about Robert Downey Sr. passing away. But Robert Downey Jr. does, and that's to be expected because it's, It's his dad. We understand that. All right, let's move on. Now it's time for us once again to get into all the things that are trending, all the people that are making, Oh, it should be mentioned. Thank you. We do have somebody who helped out the show, and they are good friends and the folks at Sacred Oils. If you're looking for CBDs, deltas, all of those kinds of things this weekend, if you want to get high, you can, because it's legal. You can buy flour, you can buy tinctures, you can buy edibles, you can buy all of those things. All you need to do is go to Sacred Oils, 13740 Midway Road in beautiful Farmers Branch. You tell them Pugs 20, you get yourself a 20% discount. And I just realized that I forgot to call my buddy Brandon back yesterday. Oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry, Beep, if you're listening now. I have phone calls. I'm terrible at remembering. I'll say, oh, I missed this call. I need to call this person back. I can't do it now. I need to write that shit down. All right, let's get into all the things of the Pugs 20. Get you 20% off at Sacred Oils, 13740 Midway Road, Farmers Branch. CBDs, tinctures, edibles, flour, really nice flour, like purple, like Kush, and, all that stuff. You're like, woo. Crazy. Look into the law, man. Look into the law. This is not imitation fake weed. This is not. It's not that. It's legit. Take it from me. Take it from me. Take it from E. I mean, anyway. All right. So thank you. What else do we need to be mentioned here? Nothing. Let's get into the topics, huh? Let's talk about all the things that are trending, all the things that are happening. Now seems like it might be a good time for me to take a really quick break. I don't take breaks. Never mind. I have concerns about the dog. The boy is downstairs. Okay, so here's an ongoing problem. You know the story of the dog. The dog is a handful. The dog is a whatever. Technically, it's called a Catahoula. They're called swamp dogs. They're called Cajun pit bulls. Hillbillies use them to fight and stuff down there. But they're really nice animals, especially if you're looking for something to. They got the mentality of a junkyard dog. Like if you come to the fence of the junkyard, this thing is like really scary, and it's solid beef, and it's just teeth and claws and muscle. The dog loves, I'm pretty sure, only 5 people in this planet. And 3 of them are the dog's family, permanent family, which is, of course, E and his lovely wife and child. And then, the dog only knows 2 other people, and it's me and my son. And the dog, basically sees its job as protecting those 5 people at all costs all the time from everything. And everything includes butterflies, squirrels in the backyard, everything. This dog's job is to make sure that this particular group of people are safe at all times. So, the dog stays here at the big property, the Comfort Nest Studios that we like to call it, because it's got room and needs to run around and all that stuff. So my kid, has been here for a while, and my kid and the dog are like just hanging out constantly, and that's wonderful, and you want that. But here's the problem. For some reason, and this is the only person he does it to. Oh, I should mention this. This is a topic that I need to bring up with our doctor, Dr. Mike, on our dog podcast that we're putting together. Pup Life, coming soon. We've recorded a couple of episodes. My dog, or our dog, the house dog, CeeLo, she only tries to have sex with my son. Like if my son, the humping. First of all, she's a girl. Why is she humping? But she will mount his leg, and then he's got to smack her. And then she goes, okay, I forgot. We're not doing this. This isn't our relate. And then she'll she's cool with it, and she'll calm down. But why only him? And why, he's not like a little, I could see if she was trying to show dominance, but he's not a little kid. He's really big. He's as big as me now. He's as tall as I am. My 14-year-old son is 6 feet tall. Good. Well, he's not as tall. He's getting there. He's like 5'11", which is good. We're very excited about it. Anyway, That's why I thought I needed to take a break, because I thought I heard something downstairs, but then it was revealed not to be what I thought it was. All right, let's get into all the things that are trending, all the hot topics, the current events, all the fun stuff that is happening in the world today. Let's move forward. Twitter versus Threads is still happening. Threads is the new Twitter clone from Instagram. Twitter Threads is, there's some unrest. The current lifestyle there being enjoyed on Twitter has been described by many as chaotic. I know that I just, it's just getting old. It's, I enjoy Twitter. I enjoy the layout. I certainly found it superior to Facebook. But it's just, it's not fun anymore. It's like Twitter has been ruined by special interests and, people arguing about this place is fascist. No, it's not fascist, but it's a little different. We're starting to see more of a certain kind of thing. Anyway, I just get tired of it all. I get tired head. I still enjoy Twitter. I'll still post on Twitter from time to time, but I've been on Threads almost exclusively on Threads. I'm loving the fact that there's only, like 100 million people on Threads now in 2 days, which is incredible when you consider that like other Twitter challengers like Mastodon and all these, they only got like 50,000 and they've been around for over a year, right? So it was the fact that Threads was able to tether their signups to Instagram, which has, as we learned yesterday, like 4 billion people. So when you signed on to Instagram, you were immediately hit with, hey, you want to try Threads? You can sign up easily just because you're at Instagram, you can click here. So Threads exploded, man. I mean, it just immediately exploded with 1 million people. I think I'm in the first 2 million. I think I'm gonna be able to hang on to that because it's gonna go up to like 1 billion. So that was cool. And all the people so far, like on my timeline and everything, and there's certain differences. Like there's no trends. I like to use Twitter trends for things. There's no trends on Twitter or on Threads. There's a couple of differences. Anyway, it really is though. If you are used to Twitter and you're afraid, because here's my big thing. I don't want to learn the layout of a new thing. So if you're familiar with Twitter, they created Threads to be user-friendly. If you know how to do Twitter, then you'll know how to do the Threads app. It's essentially the same thing. It's not like Instagram. I don't know how to do Instagram. I don't. I've had an Instagram account for years. I look at it on my phone and I'm like, what does this button do? I don't know I don't know. I have no idea what that layout means, but I know what the Facebook layout means. And I know what the Twitter layout means. Threads is the same as Twitter. Threads, and we'll get to why that might be a problem. Twitter, we'll get to it right now. Twitter is threatening to sue Meta over Threads. Here's a letter that was sent to Mark Zuckerberg by the Twitter folks. Dear Mr. Zuckerberg, I write on behalf of X Corp as successor in internet to Twitter Inc. Based on recent reports regarding your recently launched Threads app, Twitter has serious concerns that Meta Platforms has engaged in systematic, willful, and unlawful misappropriation of Twitter's trade secret and other intellectual property. Woo! Okay, so as unlike all the other challengers to Twitter over the years, Twitter never said anything. Twitter never did anything about Mastodon, any of the other stuff. Blue Sky is popular. Twitter's not doing anything. Twitter's getting involved real early here on Threads because they're like, oh my God, this thing is growing exponentially. At this growth rate, they will pass Twitter's engagement level by the end of July. By the end of the month, Threads will at this, if it keeps growing the way it's growing. Twitter is threatening legal action against Meta over its new text-based Twitter killer platform, accusing the social media giant of poaching former employees to create a copycat application. So that's the big thing. Twitter is saying, you hired a bunch of our former Twitter engineers to come over there and design this, and that's why we're going to sue you. All right. So if there was intellectual property that was used by people who, used to work at Twitter, who now work at Meta and who worked on this particular project, that seems like that would be fairly easy to confirm, right? These are the people who worked on this project. Did you ever work for Twitter? No. Did you ever work for Twitter? No. Did you ever work for Twitter? Yes. Okay, we got a guy. Let's talk to him about this. Then we could have a problem. Unfortunately, according to Meta, this is absurd. There isn't a single person on the Threads team who worked for Twitter. So we'll see. Twitter intends to strictly enforce its intellectual property rights and demands that Meta take immediate steps to stop using any Twitter trade secrets or other highly confidential information. Twitter reserves all rights, including but not limited to the right to seek both civil remedies and injunctive relief. Oh, we're getting all lawyerly now. Without further notice to prevent any further retention, disclosure, or use of its intellectual property by Meta. He also alleged that Meta assigned former Twitter employees to develop Meta Copycat Threads app with the specific intent that they use Twitter trade secrets and other intellectual property that they gained while working for Twitter. Okay, so here is the answer to that charge from Andy Stone, Meta's communication director. The charge is Meta hired a bunch of former Twitter engineers to build Threads. Here is the official legal response from Meta. Twitter's accusations are baseless. Not one single person on the Threads engineering team is a former Twitter employee. That's just not a thing, he said. All right, so there you have it. Now, I like the way he said it. He specifically says, no one on the Threads engineering team is a former Twitter employee. What about consultants? What about outside influence? What about people that you hired on an advisory basis? Let's get into that. Let's see who those people are. Look, I'm not saying that this is going to work because apparently a lot of people and lawyers and stuff are saying, yeah, no, this is not a thing. They just took something that exists and reverse engineered. Anybody could have done that. There's no trade secrets at this point about how Twitter does its layout. So anyway, that's going back and forth. We'll see how that plays out. I'm enjoying Threads. There are a couple of things that are different, like I want my background right now is black. I can't figure out how to make it light because it's harder for me to see. Anyway, there you have it. There's also a report today, jobs and all that stuff. The jobs we talked yesterday, jobs were like really, really good. They were private sector employment outpaced expectations by double. Expectations for new jobs in the private sector yesterday was somewhere around 200,000. They posted 400,000 for the month. So raging, right? And I said yesterday, I go, this looks good. But you know what? It's bullshit because these numbers can mean whatever you want them to mean. That looks great, right? Private sector jobs outpaced expectations 2-1. Yay, America! Well, guess what? Today we get the other shoe. The other shoe drops on that, explaining that maybe just because there's more jobs doesn't mean that it's necessarily good because payrolls in this, the amount we're earning, the amount employers are paying for these new jobs, payrolls in America rose by 209,000 in June. I'm sorry, payrolls rose by 209,000 in June. That's far less than expected. Job growth is the issue here. Job growth. People are making less money. There are more people working for less money. That is not progress. That means we just hired a whole bunch more people to work the drive-through. Okay? That's not industry. That's not society sustaining commerce. There's no way that we can have a thriving economy if the jobs we're adding that we're going, look at how many jobs we added. If the jobs we added are side hustle gigs, can't put kids through college. You can't, hey, I'm sorry, you can't continue to buy cars. New cars, can't buy new cars, can't take airline trips, Jesus. So that's what I say when you look at these jobs report and one side starts to tout, look at what we're doing. Always wait for the other shoe to drop because yes, yesterday we learned that we hired more people in this country than we expected. More people were given jobs last month. That's good. Look at the jobs. And then today we found out what those jobs were. Those jobs were all garbage, low-paying jobs. And the payroll for the month dropped. It was not, basically it shows growth Growth depends on employees making money for a fair day's work and then spending that money in the greater economy. That's what growth and economic prosperity looks like. But when you work more, and by definition, you have less time to be out there spending money because you're working more. And when you work more and have less to spend, that is a negative impact on the economy. You can't grow that way. You're working more, you're spending less. That's not growth. We're all just becoming worker bees for the benefit of the queen. That's basically what it's looking like. Musk. Elon Musk is trending. Well, he was trending before because remember we talked about his battle with Threads. He's trending again because here's the question. Is Elon Musk a socialist? Claims he is. He says in 2018 that he's a socialist, and he's just taken a pledge with the Chinese government to promote socialist ideals. Yeah. Well, Elon Musk, he has previously posted on Twitter that, quote, he is a socialist, writing in 2018. By the way, I am actually a socialist. True socialism seeks the greatest good for all, he wrote in 2018. Tesla has declined to comment immediately on the pledge to the Chinese government to promote socialist ideals. The Chinese market is immensely valuable to Tesla, accounting for just under 1/3 of the annual sales. Musk, who also owns Twitter and SpaceX, traveled to China last month and met the foreign commerce and industry ministers, as well as Robin Zhang, the founder and chair of CATL, the world's biggest maker of electric vehicle batteries. All right, so the battery maker is over there in China. So Musk, because of Tesla, has to be friendly with the Chinese. The Chinese government demanded that all people, apparently there's a big battle going on in China between electric vehicle manufacturers. There's a number of Chinese brands that are doing really well there, even better than Tesla. Tesla's trying to compete in China because he wants a piece of the money. There has been some duplicitous business practices. At least that's how the Chinese government has called them. So they got all the EV makers together, right? China did, all of them, including Musk. This is why he went to China. This is what the story's about. They got them all together in a room, and the Chinese government said that if you want to sell to the Chinese people, you have to pledge right now, write it down, that you will, with your companies, promote socialist ideals. So obviously that's a problem for a lot of people. A lot of people are now like, what? Why is he signing that? Why is Musk pledging fealty to the ideology of a communist nation? Which is what it is. I mean, that's what that is. But then there's other people going, no. It's not about principle. It's not about morality. It's not about real world ideology or anything. It's about money. He's trying to sell cars to people in it. This was me. Look, I don't have a problem with it. He doesn't have to mean it. He's trying to sell cars, right? I think that I'm a principled guy. I put principle. Look at me. I'm doing a show from a closet. I put my principles ahead of my better monetary gains, right? I don't, it's a mental defect in me that I take stands to my own detriment. I take these principled stands. Now, if I was a money guy, like if I was more successful and everything about me was driven by how much I have in my bank account, and you should see my bank account, then maybe, I'd be okay. So I would be okay with it. I would sign if that's who I was. I mean, I wouldn't sign now because of my stupid principles about, free markets and America and democracy and how I view what they're doing over there is wrong. And if Tesla makes a better car than a Chinese company, they shouldn't have to sign any stupid pledge for socialist ideals or communist values. That's some bullshit. But I would sign it. If I was the head of Tesla and I was a billionaire and I'm like, money, I'd sign it. I'd totally get it. No judgment. I understand why they're doing it. They're wired differently than me. James is one of my best friends in the world. James is one of those guys. James would sign it. He doesn't have to believe it. But you know what? You're going to sell all these cars in China. Why not? This is the exact same argument that I made for Bud Light. So if you were really pissed off at Bud Light doing this promotion with that Dylan Mulvaney, if you were really upset about that, about this company having ties and doing this just gratuitous attempt to reach out to a community, the trans community, to get them to buy your beer, I defended that. I was like, but they're businessmen. They're trying to sell beer. They don't give a shit if the chick has a penis underneath her dress. They're trying to sell beer. They're trying to grow their company. People are idiots. Stop it. So you people who were pissed off at Bud Light, you better be just as pissed off at Elon Musk, because it's the exact same thing. He's just trying to sell cars. Yes, he signed a pledge that says that, he will promote socialistic values. You really think he's going to do that in America? I don't. But he's doing the deal because he's trying to sell cars. It's a very complicated thing you got to wrap your mind around. Is that okay? Is it okay to forego your principles if you are, Elon Musk's trying to sell cars? So Ye Quain, the senior China researchers with Human Rights Watch, oh my God, now we're getting these people involved, said the pledge on Thursday between Musk and the Chinese government undermined Tesla's standing, failing to comply with, quote, core socialist values in the Chinese marketplace has been frequently used by governmental authorities to punish speeches that are critical of the Chinese government. All right, so basically what they're saying is if he didn't sign it, the Chinese government would make it very hard for Tesla to sell cars in China. I don't have a problem with that. If he means it, like if he's truly a socialist. Okay, so let's talk about that. What do you mean? What kind of socialism? There isn't just one kind of socialism, right? There's all different kinds. The Chinese, for crying out loud, consider themselves socialists. They're communists. They're hardcore authoritarian communists, right? Socialist is like France. Canada is socialist, not China. But anyway, Musk is taking some heat today because apparently he signed with China saying that he is a socialist, or that he will adhere to socialist values. All right. Here's another weird story here. Death Valley. So it's been really hot. How hot is it here, guys? What are we looking at? Do you know that yesterday, I think at like 8 o'clock or something, it was like 78 degrees, and then it went back up. But I guess a cold front rolled through. What is it now? Currently here in Highland Park, Texas, 89 degrees. 89 degrees at 1:20 p.m. Okay. What's it going to go up to? We're going to get into the hundreds this weekend. My goodness, I certainly hope not. Nope. Looks like we're going to stay in the, looks like we're going to be 96 as a high tomorrow. 89 on Sunday. That'd be nice. 75 for the low on Sunday. Monday, and then next week, Wednesday, 100. Thursday, 100. They can always put those big, scary numbers like 5 days away because they have plenty of time to change it. And you'll forget. It'll come to that Wednesday and it'll be like 80. And it says today that it's going to be 100. But when you get to that day, it'll be like 80. And you're like, wasn't it supposed to be hot today? Yeah, they don't care. It's all a shell game. Death Valley, really hot. There are parts of the country that are hitting temperatures of 120 degrees. Death Valley hit that mark, and they found a dude dead. All right. Man found dead in Death Valley National Park amid searing heat. Officials said a 65-year-old man was found lifeless in his vehicle as temperatures throttled up to levels that are considered high even for the notoriously hot park. Boy, they really weren't trying to sell real estate when they developed that part of the country, right? Death Valley? Who's going to buy a house in Death Valley? A 65-year-old man was found dead in Death Valley National Park on Monday. Oh, I guess you can't buy a house because it's a national park. A 65-year-old man was found dead in Death Valley National Park on Monday amid a relentless heat wave. Around 10 a.m. local time on July the 3rd, a maintenance worker located a vehicle about 30 yards off the road. So it like had run off the road. It was just like, Death Valley is just like a road and like endless desert. And then you just roll off the road. So that's what they'd done. They'd found this car that rolled off the road. The sedan tracks ran along the road shoulder and a rocky berm before veering further away from the paved road and coming to a rest. The initial investigation suggests that a heat-related illness may have caused the driver to run off the road. The dude was just driving through Death Valley. Obviously, he has no air conditioning, right? He's driving through Death Valley, and how hot was he in that car that it killed him while he was driving? Yikes. All right, 65 years old. Probably had some other things going on. Warm. Oh, here she is. Oh, hey, jerk face. Okay, lay down. Guys, I apologize. Hold on. I got to go fix things now. Be right back. The dog just showed up. Yeah. Boy, that does feel good, though, with the door open. I got to close the doors. I got to secure the studio. I shall return. I do apologize for the interruption. Hey, do you remember that from General Cinemas? Did you go to movies in the 1970s? Before every movie in the 1970s, General Cinemas, I guess, was the only. Or maybe, you know what? Honestly, this might just be because the theaters where I was from. But there was like a G for General Cinemas. Like before the movie would start, there was a G for General, and then it would like film would come out of the G, and they'd play that music. I don't know. That's just I hear that song. It's good memories because TV, movies, trips to the movies as a little kid, that kind of a thing. Hold on, before we move on. All right, dog, you're comfortable. We're going to continue on with the show here, buddy. Okay, there you go. Thank you. We want to mention Jen. Jen tipped the show today. Thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate it. Frankie, my guy Frankie. He's always so good. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Anybody else? Trying to move by. Those are the only ones that have. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, folks. We appreciate it. The show is dependent on your tips. Today is a big push day for tips. If you can help out, we sure would appreciate it. Leslie, it says here that Leslie sent me a tip. Did that really happen? Well, that's very kind of you. That's unnecessary from you, Leslie. You know why you don't need to be spending anything on us, but very kind. We're still not at our goal. So if anybody is looking to help out, a couple more tips might get us. We were trying to raise. Actually, where are we? Yeah, we're still short. We're still pretty short. All right, never mind. Thank you, Jen. Jen says, love you with her little note. Thank you. That's very kind. Where was I? Warm Earth. We got to talk about Warm Earth here. Yeah, I wanted to put this up. That's what I wanted to do. Just, in case anybody is moved to get us over the hump this month. It's already the 7th day of the month. My God. All right, let's move forward. Warm Earth. Apparently the Earth had the warmest day in its existence, or that's some bullshit. Don't say warmest year for Earth ever, because you've only been counting this since 1980. Okay, that's unfair. That makes us think that, really, it was cooler back in Egypt when they were building the pyramid. You know what I mean? Stop it. So anyway, if that's the kind of thing you're into, and if that scares you, apparently the Earth was what is pound for pound the warmest that it had ever been last year. Moving on. Here's an interesting story that's trending, and I talk about this. I mentioned this earlier today. This is something that I think that if more of us just had this sort of mentality, we wouldn't be the money-grubbing, duplicitous, backstabbing con men that so many of us are. And that is the concept of your bag. Have your bag. Know what your bag is. Remember, I was talking about this in regard to Shelley Duvall. Shelley Duvall was a famous actress in the 70s and 80s. She got her bag. She got to a point where she was successful enough where she's like, oh my God, I'm 40 years old. I've got $4 million. I can go buy a house somewhere, not in Hollywood, not some stupid, ridiculously overpriced house. She go out and just buy a nice house, a ranch out in Fort Worth for a reasonable amount of money. She's lived there the rest of her life. She recognized what her bag was. I know what my bag is. I know what my number is in order for me to just be able to live the rest of my life. And look, should I have success in any way, shape, or form, and I reach that bag number, that's it. I'm out. Goodbye, everybody. Again, principles. This is why I have a friend that I got into a big fight with once about. He's like, I'm going to be a billionaire by the time I'm 40. And I remember saying to him, yeah, I'll never be a billionaire, no matter how successful. And they couldn't understand why I would say that I would never be a billionaire. And I said, because my bag is way less than that. I would stop trying. I would just get in my bag. I would live comfortably. I would have a new car every couple of years, right? I'd never drive a beater. My house would be reasonable and lovely. My house would be, you know what I mean? Reasonable and lovely, comfortable. I'd have a swimming pool. I might even with my bag, I might even have a lake house, but I don't need a jet. I don't need a garage full of 40-year-old Italian sports cars. I don't need this stuff. My bag to be happy is a lot less. So there's a story that is trending about what it takes for the average American to feel rich or even just financially secure. Okay. Kind of a version of the bag. But this one, they lay it out in terms of what amount of money. I'm going to ask the chat. I'm going to ask the chat room this will be fun. All right, chat room. Here we go. Let's pull the chat room. Guys, are you listening? Chat room. Need your attention, guys. Need your attention. I'm going to ask a question and I want you to respond, okay? How much money, just a yearly income, how much money do you think you'd need to make per year in order to consider yourself rich? Like, I'm rich. Or no, let's not rich. Actually, let me do it better. How much money do you need to make every year to live worry-free and comfortably? All right, what's that salary? The average salary in America is $56,000 a year. That's the average salary. So how much of a salary do you need to make for you to consider yourself comfortable and without financial care? Okay. So that's the number I'm asking for you guys to post in the chat room. You tell me what you think that number is for you, and then I'll let you know what this study revealed about what the greater America has to say about it, because they've got a number. They've created a number. They are age-old questions. How much do you need to feel financially secure? How much would you need to feel rich? More than 2,500 U.S. adults said that they would need to earn. I don't want to give that money away now. Hold on. Is the chat room? Why isn't the chat room sharing? Okay, here we go. All right, so here we're getting some of these monies in here. Rob Barr says 3. Okay, all right, hold on, wait a second. Let me get some of these. I'm about to tell you what the national average is. Darshan, is this really a dude from India? Do we really have our first international chat room guy? Oh my God. Darshan, if you're legit, you are so welcome here, sir. I would love that. Bring your friends. Bring your friends. I have questions. We are from 2 different parts of the world. I have some questions for you about your culture. You may have some questions for me about mine. Let's be friends, Darshan. All right, so what is the question? Here we go. Let's go through some of these. Cameron, my boy Cameron, he says $90K. $90K is the amount of money that Cameron would need to feel secure. What else do we have here? Hold on. I'm sorry. Restream is screwing with their stuff, so the chat room is wonky. I can't use the chat room the way I usually do. Frankie Smith says $85K a year. Frank Smith says $85,000 a year in order to feel secure. Leslie says $3 million. $3 million. Well, you just being needlessly fancy, girl. You're just that's $3 million. That's a lot. Yeah, you make $3 million a year. I think you could safely consider yourself secure. Goat says 1.5 million is the number that he would need to feel secure. Okay, let me just tell you what the rest of America says. More than 2,500 U.S. adults said that they would need to earn, on average, $233,000 a year to feel financially secure. That's $233,000 a year to feel financially secure. And $483,000 annually to feel rich or to attain what they would consider financial freedom. Yeah, but for how many years? You know what I mean? Like if you tell me I'm going to make $483,000 a year for the next 20 years of my life, sign me up. I'm like, that's good. So at the end of 20 years, I'll have I'll made 10 million, something like that, somewhere in there. Wow, probably more like 6 when you consider. Just for comparison's sake, the median earnings for a full-time year-round American worker was $56,473 back in the year 2021. It says here, of course, there's no objective or right answer to these questions. What it takes for one person to feel financially comfortable or like they're set for life can depend. Okay, so let me answer this for me. How to feel basically on the way that I live my life. Okay, the way that I would like to live my life. And that includes, here are the important things. Comfortable home in a safe and secure environment. That's important to me. Okay. A dependable automobile, right? A car that you don't have to worry. Every time you get in your car, you go, oh, is it going to start? Come on, baby, start. Like we all did when we were 19 years old. No. Okay. So got to have a dependable automobile. Got to have enough money so that I can go out to dinner and have a steak at Bob's anytime I want. Now, there is a difference between going out to have a steak at Bob's anytime I want and saying I want to be able to have a steak at Bob's every night, because that's absurd. That's $200 a night times 7. That's crazy. That's 14. That's 2. It's like 10 grand a month. So not that, but you know what I mean? Like, sometimes when you are a working man or you are working class, you might find yourself sitting at home and you go, God, I'd love a steak. How good would a steak be? And it's just not in the cards for you to go out and get a steak. So you eat Hamburger Helper, or maybe worst case scenario, you eat some ramen noodles. But that would be financial freedom to me. That any night at any given time, if I wanted to go have a nice steak, that would be good. So comfortable place to live in a secure environment, dependable automobile, and enough money, enough weekly fun money to be able to go have a steak anytime I want it. Other than that, that's it. So I would say I'm close to the guys who said around 90. Let's just round it up nicely. I'd say 100 grand. 100 grand is what I would need to make every year to feel completely financially comfortable. And I've made that before. I've been there. I've done that. And I know. And it's so funny but I was living a more extravagant lifestyle see, that's what happens, right? The more money you make, the more extravagant you live. Like a nice car is a nice car. Like for me, I would think that with my 100 grand, a nice car, a dependable car is a Toyota, a Nissan, some form of Chevy, some kind of Dodge, something like that. But if my number wasn't 100,000, my number was 200,000, then that might be, my nice car is a Porsche or a Jaguar. I don't need that. I don't need that. Anyway, I thought this was interesting. The number is $233,000. $233,000 is what the average American believes they would need to make to feel financially secure. And $430,000 is what the average American says they would have to make to feel rich. What else is happening? Faith in institutions. This is another interesting article that is trending today. I'm a big institution guy. I understand the concept of institutions. I am a great believer in. Okay. So, the institutions are established law and practices, established customs, or an organization that is looked at upon by the greater society as adhering to established law, established practices, social customs. Okay, so that's what an institution is. Medical science is an institution. The presidency is an institution. The Supreme Court is an institution. News media, the New York Times is an institution. Faith in institutions are at an all-time low. That's what this article is about. And that's trouble, because without some faith in institutions agreed upon by society at large, you have chaos. You have no means of truth to be able to be spread. Let me tell you this, life is very complicated. Sometimes you just need friggin' hope. And at the very least, the existence of institutions can give a troubled or anxious mind some hope that, hey, at least there are people who understand this more than me working on it, right? So that's, in a very broad sort of way, that is what we're talking about when we talk about institutions. Faith in institutions are at a historic low. I've got some numbers here. Let me tell you what we're looking at here. Americans' faith in major societal institutions hasn't improved over the past year following a slump in public confidence back in 2022. Recent trends in America's confidence in institutions. Okay. So here, let's start with the things that we do believe in here in America, okay? 65% of Americans believe in the institution of small business, as do I. I would say I have basically what this is this means a great deal or fair amount. Okay, so 65% of Americans have a great deal or fair amount of confidence in the institution of small business. 60% of Americans have a great deal or fair amount of confidence in the institution of the United States military. 60% of Americans polled have a great deal or fair amount of confidence in the police. Really? Isn't that shocking? I mean, I do. As an institution, I believe that. Now, when you say you believe in an institution, that doesn't mean that you can't also believe that there is corruption and that there are things that need to be tweaked and fixed within that institution. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So do I have some issue? I would love to see some real attention made to at least the conversation about police reform, instead of it being this political thing where nobody can talk about it, because if you believe in police reform, that means you burn down car dealerships with Antifa, right? No. I believe in police reform because I come from a cop family, because I grew up around cops, because my best friend's dad was a super cop. My mom worked for state police for 20 years. I got uncles on my dad's side that were cops. All of my coaches were cops. I come from a working class, middle firemen, cops, plumber. Those are all the people that I grew up around. So are you asking me, are all cops bad? No, not all cops are bad. And matter of fact, some of them are incredible people. Are there some really bad cops? Yes, there are. But that's interesting to me that the police, 43%, under 50, but still that's a high number when you consider some of the other institutions that are mentioned here. Percentage of Americans who have a great deal or fair amount of faith in church religions, okay? The church or organized religion, 32%. That's a big drop off. 37% was well, actually, that's not great either, now that they mentioned it. 32% only of Americans have a great deal or fair amount of faith in American religious institutions. U.S. Supreme Court, here's another big one. 27% ain't good. 27% of us have a great deal of faith in the Supreme Court. The presidency, here's another. We're looking at institutions and Americans and how we feel about them. The presidency, a great deal of faith in the presidency. Only 26% of us have a great deal of faith in the presidency. Organized labor, 25% of us. The criminal justice system, 17%. Television news, 14% of Americans have a great deal. Who is this 14? Who is the 14%? Who are these people? Is this Anderson Cooper? Is this Anderson Cooper and Joy Reid and Greg Gutfeld? I mean, who are they polling here? Who are these 14% of people who say they have a great deal of faith in the institution of television news? Big business in this country, 14% as well. Nobody gives a shit about big. That's good. We should have zero faith in the institution of corporate America. We should. We've seen enough. Small business, I like that. Let's support small business. Let's build up. Let's give some opportunity to some of these new people so that they can become the next generation of Barron. And finally, the last one that we'll cover. Oh, banks. How about banks? Banks, 26% of Americans care about banks. Public schools, 26% of us give a shit about public schools. And finally, what do we care the least about? Who has the absolute least of our faith? Which institution? As expected, Congress. Only 8% of Americans describe themselves as having a great deal or a great deal or a fair amount of faith. There you have it. Faith in institutions, man. It is troubling. I am not being critical of anyone who has no faith in any of these institutions. What I am saying is we, as a civilized society, need to have faith in these institutions. And the fact that so many people do not trust any of these things anymore, that does not bode well for the immediate future. That leads to chaos. And we saw flare-ups of that during the pandemic. We saw all kinds of I'm not just going to do what they say. Okay, I don't think we should just do what they say either. But who is saying it? And what is their background? And what is my background? I don't, it's just presidency. I have no faith in the presidency. I had this debate with James Parker the other day. I used to think that the presidency was sacrosanct. I used to think that the person who sat in the chair was just a removable pawn and it didn't matter. But the institution, the fact that the presidency existed and what that person represented and the powers that he wielded, those were important. Now it's, over the past couple of years, it's been a little bit, they'll just let anybody do this. My God, you see the guy we got now? I mean, it's crazy. I don't know how we get it back. I had the argument with James where we were talking about my current take on the presidency of the United States, where it's an absolute bullshit position that seems to be just a figurehead at best. At best, a figurehead. At worst, just a constant target for people to hate on. That's really what the job of the president of the United States is right now. To just be somebody that everybody hates. Possibly deserved. Again, I am not making judgments here. People don't feel attacked by what I'm saying. I'm just making observations as I see it. Presidency is garbage. All right, let's keep going. Hey, here's a little something we can have some fun about. How about the Eagles? The Eagles. Do you like the Eagles? Yeah, I'll go to town with you on the Eagles. Okay, so the Eagles, right? The band, the Eagles, they've announced their last shows, their final shows, which I swear to God, I feel like I've been seeing the Eagles for 25 years now, and it's always been their last tour. The Eagles and the Who. Ironically, don't get fooled again, right? Who? You going on another tour? Another retirement tour? The Who started touring for their retirement in the 80s. The Eagles announced final tour dates. This is our swan song, they claim. The Eagles, one of the most successful and longest-running acts in history of popular music, have announced the first of what they say are their final tour dates. After 52 years, more than 1,000 concerts, and over 150 million albums sold, the group has announced the initial 13 dates of their final farewell tour beginning September 7th in New York. All right, here are the final dates. Here you go. You want to see the Eagles? September 7th, New York City, Madison Square Garden. September 11th, Boston, Massachusetts at TD Garden. September 16th in Newark, New Jersey at the Prudential Center. And the last announced Eagles show of all time, until they announce more. You see what I'm saying? This is Belmont Park, New York at the UBS Arena. Okay. There you have it. The Eagles have announced their final shows. Hold on, let me clean some of this up. Because we're going to talk. We're going to get together. We're going to have a little serious conversation here, okay? And it's something that I've been known to say over the years. I've been known to say, I will not tolerate any Eagles slander in my presence. I freaking love the Eagles. And I don't understand it. I don't understand the Eagles hate. I mean, I can kind of see, I don't understand it. I don't understand its authenticity. I understand where it comes from. It comes from the fact that they have been everywhere all the time everywhere all the time. Life in the fast lane. They've been everywhere. They are omnipresent. You know, especially in the summer, man. Do you know how many Eagles songs you just hear blaring out of dudes' backyards in the summertime? If you were a kid, I don't care what era you grew up in, if you were running around in a driveway jumping through sprinklers or whatever, you were probably listening to Eagles music coming from somewhere. And for some reason, there is a generation, and it's millennials. It is a certain group of millennials that just think that they're like the worst band of all time. They're one of the greatest bands of all time. Nobody could write hit songs. Nobody. My God, you people. First of all, as musicians, incredible. As players, incredible. Each and every one of them is an incredible player. But just you take their body of work and how it has attached itself to the fabric of American culture of the last 40 years. I will not stand for Eagle slander. I absolutely love it. And you know what, you piece of shit, you garbage people. Look, the Eagles are lame. All right, let's ride in a car and let's play Life in the Fast Lane. And I'm going to watch your feet. And I swear to God, if they beat to the beat once, what you are a fool. You are a lying sack of shit, and your entire Eagles thought is disingenuous. Now, the Eagles are great, man. I've seen them a bunch of times. The last time I saw him was like 10 years ago at the American Airlines Center here. I went with Schwartz. Dr. Schwartz took me. He's like, hey, I got a box. You want to go see the Eagles? I'm like, yeah. Yeah, of course. And like even 10 years ago, it was like, yeah, this is probably the last time we're going to see them. Well, it was the last time we saw Glenn Fry because Glenn Fry's gone. And that's sad. You know, so I can say I've seen the Eagles twice with like Full Metal Eagles with like the tour that's going out now. Vince Gill has replaced Glenn Fry to some extent. Vince Gill, what a great ad. I mean, you're the Eagles, right? One of your top guys drops. God love him. Glenn Fry passed away. One of your top guys dies, and then you just bring in like one of the all-time biggest selling country artists, and he's now going to be a member of the Eagles for like the last couple of tours. Also, in what is just a lovely thing, Deacon Fry, who is the son of Glenn Fry, is now in the Eagles. He's now playing in the Eagles. So the Eagles have announced their final tour. I will not be accepting any Eagles slander in any way, shape, or form. Keep your stupid, poorly informed, I hate music and I'm not an open-minded appreciator of art to yourself. The Eagles are a beautiful piece of American history and incredibly thoughtful songwriters. I am afraid to look at the chat room because I just got a feeling Adam Reyna is going to find that one of them date raped somebody at some point. Where is Adam? I tease Adam. Adam was a part of a conversation on my Facebook page yesterday. That is crazy. It's crazy. I asked a question on my Facebook, Pugs Moran on Facebook. I asked a question for the 9 o'clock show, Radio Misfits show that we do every night at 9 o'clock. I asked a question on the Facebook page. I said, I got to watch a movie with my kid. I'm forcing my kid to watch an 80s movie. He lost a bet. He hates 80s movies. Now, because he lost the bet, he's got to watch one with me. So what movie should we watch? And I just put a poll there, and it was wonderful. It was people saying Short Circuit, 3 O'clock High, Rambo, all these wonderful suggestions. And then, right, I mean, this is like the least troubling possible post that I could have put up there. No, there's gonna be. I mean, if there's fights, there's gonna be fights over whether or not Short Circuit was good, right? That's the kind of fight I was looking for. Somebody goes Revenge of the Nerds, and our boy Adam, who I love, don't get me wrong, Adam's one of my oldest friends. Somebody put Revenge of the Nerds, and Adam follows up with, yeah, if you want to learn about how to rape people, and then, oh my God, we were off to the races. This totally non-divisive, friendly little post thread about what 80s movie I should watch with my kid turned into discussions or depictions of rape in 80s films. And oh my God, it was funny. I had to laugh. It was very humorous. So, by the way, it might be fun for you to know. What movie did we choose? What movie? You're wondering, what movie did we choose? I will say this. We did choose a movie. My 14-year-old son, but the first 10 minutes were a little bit difficult because when I went down there and when I said, all right, time to pay up on the bet, we're going to watch an 80s movie, he immediately went like, oh, I'm tired. It's like 10:15. It was right after we ended the show last night, the Radio Misfits show. He's like, oh, I'm tired. I go, no, I don't care if you're tired. I go, you're going to watch this movie with me. I didn't think like we were going to do it tonight. And I go, yes, you did. You thought we were going to do it tonight because anyway, it was, so we watched the movie last night. Do you know what movie we watched? He got to pick it. We had narrowed it down to a number. And so we watched the trailers. And we had 3 films that we had narrowed it down to. And he watched the trailers. The 3 that we had narrowed it down to were Taps, Breakfast Club, and Risky Business. And he chose Risky Business. So me and my 14-year-old son watched Risky Business last night. And people are like, you can't let a kid. I saw Risky Business at the exact same age as him. Risky Business came out when I was his age, and I saw Risky Business in the theaters. We snuck in, but but I saw Risky Business in the theaters. It was rated R. We used to sneak in all the time to rated R movies, and it was great, and I loved it, and it didn't ruin me. So we sat and watched Risky Business. I don't know what his take is, but I know that he had to have been sort of interested in the story because he made it through the whole thing. And that in and of itself tells me that he must have really liked the movie because he made it through the whole thing. And if he's not interested in the story, he'll fall asleep or he'll manufacture a big fight that gets the movie stopped so that then we can be mad at each other for 40 minutes. And in those 40 minutes, he can go play on his phone. And then after those 40 minutes, he knows that we're going to make up and everything's going to be. So yeah, I thought that's what he was going to do. I thought he was going to manufacture an event so that the movie would be ended. He didn't. He watched the whole thing. My kid, I don't know if he liked it or not. I purposely haven't asked him, but we're going to have him review it on Monday night's Radio Misfits show. My 14-year-old will review his thoughts on Risky Business. I enjoyed it. I guess the question, does it hold up? Yeah, it holds up. It's a funny movie. It's a really funny movie. Here's the problem. I mean, and this became painfully obvious as I'm watching Risky Business. Because, you remember the lighthearted stuff. You don't remember the incredible crime that is being perpetrated and framed as... You do realize that these were all grown at. So the story of Risky Business is Joel's parents go out of town and he throws a party at his house, but it's not a normal party. It's a party with a bunch of escorts. He just puts a bunch of prostitutes in a bunch of rooms and he makes money because he's got to replace the Porsche that he accidentally drove into the lake, right? These are all like prostitutes in their 20s who are having sex with like little children. These are high school kids. There is a scene played to great laughs where the party is raging in the living room and there is who is obviously a 10-year-old boy dressed up in a little like confirmation suit with his bow tie. He's a 10-year-old boy and he is sitting on the couch and a grown-ass woman, a prostitute, sits down next to this little boy, puts her arm around him, and the little boy gets up like they're going off into a room. I mean, I'm watching this and I'm going, oh my God, this is such a great movie. Oh my God, I hope Adam Reyna doesn't see this movie. Oh my, so that is a bit troubling. That is a bit troubling by the understanding that it probably couldn't get made today. You probably couldn't make a movie today where prostitutes in their 30s are seen, soliciting children, literal children. But other than that, my kid will give his review. I don't know if that registered on my kid. My kid's just a 14-year-old, he's kind of, they were all really attractive prostitutes because they were Hollywood prostitutes. Hollywood prostitutes, they look nothing like real prostitutes. Hollywood prostitutes are Rebecca De Mornay, right? That's a Hollywood prostitute. So he's, he didn't really make that connection that it was skanky. He was just like, eh. And honestly, to be truthful with you, we fast forward through a number of the scenes. Like there's the first scene where Joel hooks up with Lana, the Rebecca De Mornay character. We fast forwarded that, not because it was too explicit. It is explicit. That wasn't the reason we fast forwarded. We fast forwarded it because he and I have an agreement that on anything that we watch, if two people are kissing, we fast forward through it because we're not interested in that. So I was also thinking, all right, we got to fast forward through this. We call it the romantic subplot exception. If suddenly the movie that we're watching devolves into a romantic subplot, we fast forward through it to get back to like the story that we're interested in. So we did. And then there's the train scene on the CTA, late at night where they have relations on the train. Fast forwarded through that as well. It was like, oh, here they go. They're kissing. We got to fast forward. So I can't wait to hear. Monday night on the Radio Misfits show, my boy will let us know exactly what he thought of Risky Business. What else do we have here? Okay, Britney versus Victor, a story that was first covered here last night. I think we talked about it last night on the report, the Radio Misfits show. Britney Spears was in Vegas. San Antonio Spurs #1 draft pick Victor Wembanyama was also in Vegas. He was surrounded by San Antonio Spurs security. Britney Spears saw him. Apparently, Britney Spears is a basketball fan. Britney Spears runs up to him, Victor. And as she reaches out, she touches him in the back. And as she touches him in the back, the head of San Antonio Spurs security apparently backhanded her in the face. Get away. Exactly what is supposed to happen. Victor and his security detail moved through, and Britney's like, why? Why? Actually, I don't know if she did that, but she was probably stunned, and I have to believe, knowing Britney, a little over dramatic about it. A little bit, probably. Britney goes to dinner in the restaurant, where they were. And after a few minutes, the head of security for the San Antonio Spurs, who had backhanded Britney, approached Britney and her husband, Sam Asghari, in the restaurant and said, offered his apologies. We didn't know it was you. Not that that should change anything. You still just can't bum rush a celebrity when they have a security detail. You're going to get body checked. You can't do that. That's why that security detail is there. And, it seemed, at least by reports from San Antonio security dude himself, he said that she seemed like she accepted the apology and that everything was fine. Well, Britney then goes and calls the police and files a police report. And now she's been assaulted by the San Antonio. And there is no video that I've seen. Maybe there is video, but again, that I've seen, I haven't seen it. I've seen pictures. I've seen stills. You can't really tell what's happening. Finally, however, Victor himself, the 19-year-old basketball phenom from France, the number 1 overall pick in just last month's NBA draft, going to the San Antonio Spurs, is addressing this. NBA star Victor Wembanyama addresses Britney Spears' slap. He says, she grabbed me from behind. Oh, this is like getting even better, because he's not like, but first, he doesn't. Britney Spears, do you think? Okay, Victor Wembanyama is 19 years old. For at least the last 3 years, we'll just say the last 3, for at least the last 3 years of Victor Wembanyama's life, he's 19 now. So at least since he was 16 years old, he has been an international global sensation. Okay, he's not the kid that lives down the block. Since he was 16 years old, he's like, that guy's going to go number 1 in the NBA draft. He is a transformative player. He is changing the game of basketball. That whole thing was about him. He started playing professional basketball when he was still in what an American would be high school. He started playing professionally in the European leagues and dominating as basically a high school kid. And you think, well, those are the European leagues. Hey, guys, the European leagues are just as good as the NBA. Maybe not on the whole, but on a team on, team off, there are teams in the European League that can compete in the NBA. Absolutely. So stop thinking the European League is some far lesser thing. This kid, my point, at 19, has been a global sports superstar now for about 3 years. Britney Spears is a global superstar in another way. Britney Spears is not as high atop the radar right now as Victor Wembanyama is, the number 1 pick, being called a generational player coming into the NBA. Britney Spears is down here, although at one point she was up here, right? Absolutely. But Britney Spears, she's not really relevant. Victor Wembanyama, way relevant. Victor Wembanyama is 19 years old. So when you start becoming aware of things, maybe 15 years ago starts Victor Wembanyama's awareness of the world. 15 years ago, what is 15? Well, 15 years ago would be 2008. Okay. So that's when Victor Wembanyama is at the earliest able to understand things. In 2008, Britney was already a has-been. Britney wasn't doing like Toxic, right? She had Toxic? That was like in 2004. That was like the last like really big hurrah for her. So I can't imagine that Victor Wembanyama is like, oh my God, that's Britney Spears. I got to meet Britney Spears. He didn't give a shit about Britney Spears. Britney Spears is like, me at, no, actually, this is pretty good. All right. If when I was 19 and I was like Victor Wembanyama and I was moving through, this would be like Judy Garland, like trying to hunt me down in a hotel. I don't give a shit at me at 19 who Judy Garland is. That's basically who Britney Spears is to Victor Wembanyama. Britney Spears is somebody who was a massive star at one point, is now kind of on the downslide. She's still talked about, but almost only to be ridiculed. So he doesn't give a shit about her. Which I was interested in hearing, because I was wondering if, does this 19-year-old kid from France, is he like, oh my God, Britney, I love her. No, he probably didn't even know who the hell she is. He's heard of her. She's a nuisance, right? He's probably heard of her as being kind of, maybe he's seen some pictures of her when she was 20, because those are the pictures you want to see. Victor Wembanyama has spoken out about the viral incident when his security detail allegedly slapped Britney Spears in the face. Something did happen a little bit when I was walking with some security from the team from the team to some restaurant, the NBA star, 19 years old, told ESPN. We were in the hall. There was a lot of people, so people were calling at me. Obviously, there was one person who was calling me, but we talked. All right, hold on. This is Victor Wembanyama's quote. We were in the hall, period. There was a lot of people, so people were calling me. Obviously, people were calling me. There was one person who was calling me, but we talked before with security. Wembanyama said that he, quote, couldn't stop when a person who happened to be the Toxic singer, Britney, was calling him. And he said, she grabbed me from behind. Okay. I didn't see what happened because I was walking straight and I didn't stop, Wembanyama added. That person who grabbed me from behind, they not on my shoulder. She grabbed me from behind. I just know that security then pushed her away. While the San Antonio Spurs player said he didn't know how much force his security used, he does know that he pushed her away. So he doesn't know how hard, but he does admit, yeah, my security guy pushed her away. I don't know how hard it was, but he did. He absolutely did. I didn't stop to look, Wembanyama says, so I could walk in and enjoy a nice dinner, he said while chuckling. Wembanyama said he was unaware that the fan who tried to talk to him was Spears until Thursday. He says on that, I didn't know for a couple of hours, but when I came back to the hotel, I thought it was no big deal. And then security of the Spurs told me it was Britney Spears, the pro baller told ESPN. So let's see what his response to that was. Does he know who Britney Spears is? Or was he like, woo? At first I was like, you're kidding. But yeah, it turns out it was Britney Spears. I never saw her face. I just kept walking. All right, so there you have it. On Wednesday night, the Grammy winner was allegedly smacked in the face by Wembanyama's security at the celebrity hotspot Catch, which is located inside the Aria Resort in Las Vegas. A source told the outlet that Spears was, quote, a fan of Wembanyama, who had just signed with the Spurs. She went up to him to see if they could take a photo together. Good Lord. Here, look at this. Hold on, we got some. We don't have to. I was going to show you some pictures of Britney. We did this last night. Well, we did a whole Britney takedown last night. I don't like the Britney takedowns. It's just, she's just a curiously fascinating person, just because she seems like okay. So if you were watching last night's Radio Misfits show, we played a whole bunch of Britney Spears Instagram videos, and they're always the same thing. And James does a great job of explaining what her template is. It's spinning of the hair, shaking of the body, focusing on the boobs. But she always seems like a drugged out stripper. Like that's like her whole brand now. Do you remember when Britney's whole brand was purity and innocence? That used to be the Britney Spears brand, purity and innocence. She is so far away from that now. She is like dirty, skate. Oh my God. Anyway, there you have it. Britney Spears and Victor Wembanyama. Who knows where this is going to go? Probably nowhere. Syphilis. Speaking of Britney Spears, syphilis is at an all-time high. What's that about? What's people not using condoms anymore? We got some kind of like AIDS cocktail, so people stop using condoms. Man, I'll tell you, this thing that bothers me most about my generation. My generation is the only Gen X. My generation is the only generation who took condom wearing seriously. None of you people, none of you that came after, certainly none of you who came before, none of you people took condom wearing seriously. So why did Gen X take condom wearing seriously? Because of AIDS. Because we were coming of our sexual awakening during the unveiling of AIDS. Remember when God rolled out AIDS in the summer of 1983? He's like, hey, if you like hurricanes and floods, check this out. And he gave us AIDS. And then all of a sudden, look, the early days of AIDS. I'm talking about the early days of AIDS. If you weren't there, you can't possibly know what it was. But it was the end of the world. It was the zombie apocalypse. And anybody could get it. Why? Because sex. In the beginning, it was just you had to be gay. Then it stopped. No, it doesn't have to be gay. You just have to, have the virus or have whatever it is. So nobody knew who had the virus. You could be HIV positive forever. So, of course, my generation, Gen X, When we're learning all about sex for the first time in 1984, the world is panicking about AIDS. So all that shit dumped on us and it ruined our sex lives. It completely destroyed the sex lives of Generation X. Now, I know there's some Generation X people out there who are going to be going, I had sex in high school. I'm not saying we weren't having sex. What I'm saying is we weren't having crazy ass sex like the people after us did. The people after us, I'll explain. So we all wore condoms. It was like a big push. Got to wear condoms, got to wear condoms. You don't want to die of AIDS. And that's what we believed. And then, around about 1991, Magic Johnson, right? He said, I got AIDS or HIV. And it's like, oh no. And so that really scared us all. So now I'm in my early 20s. We're not having crazy casual sex, my generation. We're like, we're getting to know each other and, going on dates and stuff like that. This is what you did to Generation X. There were no hookups. There was no applications where you up. None of that kind of stuff. You had to take people on dates. You had to have a condom. You had to have some kind of protection. Ruined. And then like around 1999, 7 years after Magic Johnson says he's got HIV, in 1999, there's like video of Magic Johnson dunking on Kobe in practice. And we're like, wait a second. I thought AIDS was supposed to be. And then it was that generation. It was the generation that became sexually active after it was seen that AIDS didn't kill Magic Johnson. I got a big theory on this. I believe that Magic Johnson is the reason that butt sex is so big. It's not my generation. I don't think my generation would be interested in that. But you know what I'm saying? Like nothing is off the table now. The generation that came directly after Gen X, their sexual awakening was like torn from the pages of Caligula. It was completely different. Why? Because it's been a couple of years since the whole AIDS thing. There was an AIDS cocktail and people were like, well, it's not the death sentence it was in 1989. When anybody who was 20 years old in 1989 was basically told sex was a death sentence. That's what they did to us, and that's my rant. Now, this brings us to the story of today, which is syphilis. Because all the generations that came after us, oh my God, girls kissing girls. Girls didn't kiss girls in 1988. That wasn't a thing. It wasn't threesomes. Threesomes. Look at some damn having threesomes. You're having threesomes? You couldn't get two girls to agree on anything in the same room in 1989. It was all, they weren't kissing for the enjoyment of men. That all came after. That kind of debauchery all came after Generation X. It was the next generation who got to enjoy that. All of a sudden, also I say Howard Stern had a lot to do with it. Every morning, Howard Stern had girls kissing on the air. And then pretty soon, you're out in a bar on a Friday night. And look, it's two girls kissing. Why? Because everybody's applauding it and they love the attention. Attention lesbians, that's what I used to call. Anyway, yeah, look, I'm not a very sexually driven guy, but I am an observer of societal hiccups and, patterns. And I'm telling you, Generation X got completely railroaded in the whole sexual exploration game. The millennials took it to another level. The millennials went nuts with it. The millennials went with threesomes and bisexuality and, butt stuff and, just like crazy. Actually, I think the evangelical Christian girls invented the butt stuff. Right? Isn't that where that seems to go back to? Because I remember when I moved to Texas and I learned like a whole bunch of like good girls who were virgins were only virgins in the front door. You know what I mean? That was their like loophole. They're like, yeah, well, we could do that, which is so weird. Anyway, yeah. So because of that crazed sexual awakening of the generations that followed my generation, syphilis is at an all-time. It's running rampant, and it has been running rampant for years, and nobody talks about it. And now people are talking about it because there is a shortage of the penicillin that is crucial in treating syphilis. So many people have syphilis now in 2022 or 2023. So many people have syphilis now that they have run out of the syphilis drug. And they've been making the syphilis drug for 100 years or whatever. I don't know. I guess Al Capone died of it. I don't know. Whenever penicillin was invented, that's when they started work. The shortage has been announced by the drug maker Pfizer in a letter last month. Let's see. It's called Bicillin LA, a long-acting injectable antibiotic, also known as penicillin G. The company cited significant increases in demand because of the rising rate of syphilis infections. So many people have syphilis that there are no more syphilis drugs. Syphilis has been on the rise in the United States since 2000. It's exactly what I'm saying. 2000, the generation after Generation X. They just started having, Magic Johnson, he doesn't seem to be affected too poorly by AIDS. No more condom for me. Syphilis. We didn't have, who doesn't have syphilis? Generation X. Generation X never had syphilis. We never had anything. We held hands. Went roller skating. Oh, God. It's like back to the 1950s for my generation, or at least the television and movie portrayal of the 1950s. I've always pushed back on the idea that the 1950s was filled with a bunch of virgins and blue-balled guys. I don't think that's real. I think there were a whole lot of sluts in the 1950s. It's just that when we see representations of the 1950s in television and movies, they don't focus on that. They focus on a more idealized image of what that time was. They also never show, never mind. It worries me that these okay, so here's Bicillin is the only recommended treatment for syphilis among pregnant women. Pregnant women are giving it to their babies. So if you have syphilis because you're a party girl and then you decide, I'm going to slow down and have a family, and you have that kid's probably going to be born with syphilis. And bad news for you, the drug that's used for the babies with the syphilis that slutty mom gave, there is no medicine for that. So there you go. Wear a condom. You don't need to enjoy sex that much. It's like you people are enjoying sex far too much. Wear a condom. Among adult syphilis cases, nearly 1/4 are women. Just under 1/3 are in men who have sex only with men. So dudes giving syphilis to each other. And about 1/5 are men who only have sex with women. The infection can cause sores and a rash, and if left untreated, can seriously damage the internal organs, nervous system, eyes, and ears, and can be fatal. All right, so I don't know anything about STDs. I did, like in 8th grade, I took a test and I got 100% on it. I remember that. I'm like, dude, look at me. I know all about STDs. But that was 50 years ago. I have no idea what I don't like, what's the difference between syphilis and herpes, right? Is herpes, because I thought sometimes, somebody will have a cold sore on their lip and they'll be like herpes. And I'm like, wait, is that there's two kinds of herpes, right? There's like lip herpes and then there's dick herpes, or, genital herpes. So what's the difference between herpes and what's VD? What is VD syphilis, or is VD its own thing? I don't know. And you know why I don't know? Because I've never been confronted with needing to learn it, because I'm from Gen X and we weren't allowed to have any kind of sex because we wore condoms all the time because of AIDS. All right. What else do we have? What else is happening on today's show? Pat Fitzgerald. Here's some breaking sports news. Pat Fitzgerald, the head coach of the Northwestern Wildcats, your Northwestern Wildcats. Pat Fitzgerald has been suspended by the NCAA for 2 weeks. All right, so he got suspended for hazing things. Apparently, there was an investigation into some hazing that was going on with the Northwestern football team, and it turns out that Pat Fitzgerald knew a little something about it, didn't follow the proper protocols or whatever it is that he's expected to do. And they are really mad at Pat Fitzgerald, head coach of the Northwestern Wildcats. And now you young man, you are suspended for 2 weeks. Starting now, when there is absolutely when you're on vacation and there's absolutely no football activity, you, sir, we take this seriously. You are suspended now, which is a complete joke. Because if they were going to be serious about it, they would suspend him 2 weeks starting the beginning of camp. Or the beginning of the season if they really wanted to drive it home. But they don't give a shit. This is just a slap on the wrist. And I don't know what the details are of the hazing incident, so I don't have a take either way. But, I am just commenting on the fact that if you're telling me you're suspending someone from their job for the entirety of their vacation, okay, I'm not taking you too serious about your punishments. That's all I'm saying. And I like Pat Fitzgerald. I worked with Pat Fitzgerald. Pat Fitzgerald and I used to work at a bar called Sluggers. Pat Fitzgerald is Northwestern University, big Chicago university on the north side, Big Ten school, incredibly good academic school, one of the best academic schools in the world. Not so great at sports, but their football team from time to time does, compete in the Big Ten, not at the highest level. From time to time, every like 20 years, they make it to a Rose Bowl or something. But they are considered to be my hometown of Chicago's college football team, although we on the south side, we claim Notre Dame. But that's fine. People on the north side can have Northwestern. And I'm a bit of a Northwestern fan. Pat Fitzgerald played for Northwestern under Gary Barnett in the 1990s when they made it all the way to the Rose Bowl, and they had a miracle season, and he was their captain. And from that point forward, he was just lionized as one of the greats in the history of Northwestern football. Years before that, he grew up in my hometown of Orland Park. He played football at Carl Sandburg High School. I went to Andrew, across on the other side of town, but that's where I know him. He's a number of years. I think he's 4 years younger than me. I was working as a bartender for a very brief period of time at Sluggers. You know, I bartended at a whole bunch of places, but I worked at this place called Sluggers in Orland Park, which is a bar that had batting cages. Wonder what the insurance situation there was. I mean, hey, get yourself shit-faced. Here, have a couple more shots. Now go down into the super fast batting cage with no helmet. What could go wrong? Anyway, it's a cool bar. Sluggers are a chain around Chicago. He was the doorman. Pat was the doorman. And when he was playing for Northwestern, he got injured badly, and he had like a reconstructive knee surgery. And so for like an entire summer, Pat Fitzgerald was our doorman at Sluggers. I was working behind the bar. He was a doorman at Sluggers, and his leg was in a cast. I mean, he was already a super celebrity in town because he was like the captain of the Northwestern team that had outdone what everybody expected and became a whole thing. But he for a whole summer, he just checked ID. He was a bouncer with one leg is basically the point I'm trying to get. He sat on a stool with his cast on another stool, and he just took IDs from people. So Pat Fitzgerald now, of course, head coach of the Northwestern Wildcats. He's been suspended for 2 weeks in what can only be called a total joke and an endless line of comedy coming from the NCAA. Ryan Murphy is trending as well. This has to do with the writers' strike. You know, the WGA, the Writers Guild of America, has been on strike now for quite some time, going on over a month. They're not creating any new content. So, you know, right now it's not a big deal because we're all enjoying the summer fun. That said, there's going to be no new shows or movies at some point. At some point, we're going to be like, boy, I could really do a good movie. And there's not going to be anything. Ryan Murphy is threatening to sue members of the Writers Guild of America because, I'll read it to you. Ryan Murphy, in a letter from his attorney to the leadership of the Writers Guild of America, threatened litigation against Warren Light, an East Coast strike captain and strike rules compliance committee member who has subsequently forfeited those positions. Okay, so Ryan Murphy, who is in the Writers Guild of America, he's one of the most prolific showrunners in Hollywood. Ryan Murphy is one of the big dogs of the Writers Guild. Ryan Murphy, because of the strike, is threatening to sue the Writers Guild, his own guild. He's threatening to sue them and specifically taking aim at an East Coast leader of the Writers Guild. Why? Now, this East Coast leader, as is mentioned, has subsequently forfeited these positions. So he's still going to sue this guy, or he's still threatening to sue this guy, even though this guy no longer works in the positions that Ryan Murphy is upset about. Why? What happened? Why is Ryan Murphy suing his own union? Ryan Murphy, the creator of American Horror Story, the creator of Glee, the creator of Nip Tuck, the creator of The People versus O.J. Simpson, all of those things. One of the most prolific television creators easily of the last decade, and probably when it's all said and done, one of the greatest of all time. Why is Ryan Murphy suing his own guild? Here's why. The flap started on June the 21st, when Light, a former Law and Order SVU showrunner and playwright, alleged in a tweet that crew members on Murphy's show, American Horror Story, had told him that they'd be blackballed in Murphyland if they don't cross the Writers Guild picket line. Okay, so Ryan Murphy is suing an organizer in his own union. Why? Because that organizer put out a tweet that said that Ryan Murphy was threatening banishment to any crew members on any of his projects that didn't cross the picket lines. Okay. Ryan Murphy says that's BS. Ryan Murphy says, I support this strike. I support these people. You putting out there that I am threatening my crew members, that they have to be strike breakers, I am suing you. So that's what this is all about. let's see here. Again, the flap started on June 21st when Light tweeted that American Horror Story show crew members had told him that they'll be blackballed in Murphyland, meaning they'll never work on another Murphy project. They'll be blackballed in Murphyland if they don't cross the Writers Guild picket line, meaning you'll never work again if you don't break the picket line. And Ryan Murphy is saying, I never said that. I never encouraged my people to break the picket line. I support the union, blah, blah, blah. A spokesperson for Murphy called Light's tweet absolute nonsense and categorically false. All right, well, there you have it. All right, let me jump on over. That's all that I have prepared for today. Look at us. It's 2:30. We are rolling a bit long today. Let me see if there's anything new here that we can discuss. Hold on. What is trending? Russell Brand is trending. Why is old Russell trending? Well, I'll find out shortly when I check out his latest stuff. Is there anything else? The urgent message. What? Nah, you know what? It's under politics. It's trending under politics. We don't do politics here. That's not. There you go. Boom. All right, folks. Let's end the show. I haven't checked the tips yet, but I saw that a couple people tipped today. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. If you want to drop a little something on the show, help us continue onto the, keep this truck rolling, help support what we're doing here, which is non-divisive talk radio, non-political talk radio that is basically anchored in all the other things that we can hate each other over, other than how, I'm not against hating D-bags, right? We can hate D-bags here, but just let's make it have nothing to do with how you voted or how you think. Stop defining yourself, as I like to say, by who you voted for. If you want to support that kind of thing, you can drop a tip. Cash App, Venmo. This is the last day we're able to do this because got to empty everything out today. I hate that. I never understood that. Remember when you were a kid where you would have well, I'll give you an example of my kid. Like if I said to my kid, all right, well, we're going to the store, but we're only going to spend $40. Like he would spend $40 on candy. I'm like, well, okay, so we're not going to have any meat. So we're not going to have any vegetables. He's like, well, no, we got chips and candy. When you were a kid, that was okay. But as an adult, you have this money and you're like, really? There's a bill for that? You start looking at bills and you're like, there's a bill for that? Why the hell is it Hulu free? Stuff like that. Anyway, goes fast. But I love doing the show, and I love that you guys make it so I can do the show. And that's due largely to your tips. Due largely to your tips, due largely to the support of people like E, who provides us with the studio. People like Edzilla from Radio Misfits, who is the whole reason this thing exists, as far as technical aspects and all that stuff. So there's good people involved in this, and not the least of which is you, the folks who help with a little something dropped in the Venmo or the Cash App. We do appreciate that. Thank you. Have a great weekend. I don't know what my weekend looks like. Me, the kid. You know what I mean? I mean, it's I don't know, it's going to be hot. Feels like a normal weekend though, right? It feels like it feels like as far as the 4th of July interruption, it feels like this is the true end of that, right? This week never felt like a real week. This week always felt like just an extension of the long holiday weekend. But on Monday, let's get back at it. We'll hit the ground running more. High noon, Monday, as every day, Monday through Friday at noon till whenever. Followed by the second stream that we do, the Radio Misfits show, Monday through Fridays at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Myself, James Parker, E. 2 streams daily right here, or at least 2 streams daily that I'm involved in. Mr. Popular. All right. Appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. Oh, breaking news and all that stuff. Follow the show. Follow, subscribe and all that kind of stuff. Because if anything big happens over the weekend, I'd love to try and do that stuff. I haven't done it much. But when I do those, you get tips. So I got to start doing more of that stuff. Got to be more focused on how to turn a profit on it. Not a profit, but just keep it working. I love you guys. Appreciate you. See you on Monday or maybe before. Bye.